How are we doing? Are we good to start? I'm the one who's late, so making sure there's no one else who's in my situation.
Staff is ready. Rob is managing the Zoom. We have a quorum of commissioners, so we're ready to go at your pleasure, Tiki.
Great, thank you very much. So real quick segue here, just I had a neighbor in a little bit of a mental health crisis. Police have been great in showing up to help with that situation. So it's a bit symbolic of our national crossroads going on right now of these situations meshing. So really everything is peaceful and happening nicely, but the disadvantage, I guess, to working from home or doing this from home is that we can become distracted with these types of matters. So also fortunate to be here to help the situation. So with that said, go to my trusty PDF here. All right, welcome to the June edition of the Public Works Commission meeting for 2020. We had a meeting last month as well, and just as a reminder, we're getting used to this as much as anyone. So want to express that we are interested in hearing from the public. I know that communications have given two options primarily. Number one, for just viewing, there's YouTube, of course, which I use for city council meetings. There is this Zoom video as well for watching. And then for those who may not have those options, that there is a call-in option too, so they can participate in the conversation. So I believe Mr. Goulding may have just gone over those ground rules prior to my jumping on. So we wanted to reiterate that. Elsewise, let's just jump into the agenda here. So first item on the agenda is the agenda itself, which is number 2. Any questions or comments from fellow commissioners about the agenda?
No. Motion to approve the agenda.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Approved. Seconded, Commissioner Hogan. Thank you both. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll go to a vote. All in favor of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, so that passes. As a reminder for my fellow commissioners, if this passes unanimously, we do not need to do roll call. If we do have some differences of opinion, then we will go through roll call at that point. Okay, item number 3 is public forum. So we are allowing 3 minutes per person. I'm unsure. I'm going to defer to you, Mr. Goulding, on how we're looking at the current moment.
Thank you, Chairman. Right now, I did not provide the instructions that you provided, but I think you gave a great summation for anybody who's on the attendee side who does want to speak during public comment, please use the raise your hand feature, which will be at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you're on the phone, you can hit *9 and that will let us know that you want to speak. And if you're having any trouble and want to speak, we have an email address set up to take your comments or to let us know you're trying to speak and unable to at dpwcommunications@burlingtonvt.gov. At this time, we don't have anybody that's indicated that they would like to speak.
Okay. Okay, no worries. We do this in two parts. One, we usually do a public forum, which is kind of a broader piece that pertains to public works in the beginning. And then we will also entertain public options as we go through, but they will be restricted to the item at hand. So in case anyone jumps on late, getting home from work late, however that plays out. Okay, moving on. Item number 4 is the consent agenda, and just one item on the consent agenda this evening, which is the temporary ADA space on Pine Street. Any questions, comments from fellow commissioners on the consent agenda?
Motion to accept the consent agenda?
Thank you, Commissioner Barr. Do we have a second?
Seconded.
Seconded, Commissioner Gilman. Thank you very much. Any discussion on the motion? And since we just had none, I'm presuming still none. So we will go to a vote on the consent agenda. As a reminder for those in the public, well, there's only one item, but this just means we pass this as a slate and we move on to our agenda. So to the vote in favor of the agenda, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, unanimous again. Thank you. Moving to item number 5, which is Memorial Auditorium parking space request. And I believe, I see some people becoming active here. Great. So we'll get a presentation from the department and go from there.
Right. So I see Andrea Rogers has been put on panelist, which is great. So I'll just give a quick intro on this and then hand it over to Andrea. So, so basically this is a request that was brought to us by the, I didn't say good evening. Good evening, everyone. I just forget that I'm in the public space when I'm sitting in my room here. Anyway, so the church came to us back last summer with a request to alter their traffic flow through their parking lot. Fundamentally, they are looking to create a one-way traffic pattern coming through their parking lot, which would mean that they would have to exit either onto the Memorial Auditorium property or onto the library property. For sake of argument or for discussion, we just call that whole space the library lot. Although technically what we're going to be talking about is on the Memorial Auditorium parcel. So they came up with a couple of alternatives, and the one that they've brought to talk about tonight, basically, let me share my screen here. Sorry, I forgot to do that. There we go. So this is the parcel we're talking. This is the church we're talking about, and what they're talking about doing is putting.
Jeff, you can't see the.
We're not seeing it.
Oh! Sorry, the little box came up. Thank you. There you go. Now you can see it.
Thanks.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. So what we're talking about is possibly cutting the curb here and exiting the church property through this parking stall right here. So what that would basically do is create a one-way traffic pattern through the parcel and eliminate exits out onto College Street from this parcel. So the way we looked at it was we're losing a parking space, but we're gaining the removal of any sort of exiting turning movements onto College Street, and then dispersing the exit movement from whatever comes into this church out onto either South Union or out onto Main Street. So from our perspective, it's kind of a, it's not a major project, and losing this single parking space isn't a big impact on us. And part of the proposal that we've endorsed or requested is that the church would actually pay us $75 a month for the encumbrance on that spot. And basically, and we're not giving it to them forever. This is not us selling the spot to the church. It's us renting the spot to the church for as long as it makes sense for us, because Memorial Auditorium is undergoing some kind of renovation activity, and we don't want this spot-ish situation to cause any problems with that. So with that sort of intro, it's really Andrea's project. It's really the church's desire. We didn't see any particular problem with doing it. We actually saw some upsides to doing it. So I'll let Andrea sort of talk through she wrote a memo that's in the packet summarizing her case, so to speak. So Andrea, you want to chime in and
Sure. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So, I mean, about a year ago, we started looking at the problems of access and safety. And we've always had problems of access because of the one-way street, South Union Street and the hill on College Street. But the parking lot is extremely tight, and we have a daycare center for the Y in the basement, and those people come in, drop their kids off, and have to turn around and go back out again. And it's both very congested, and it's also a safety issue because you've got, kids getting out and parents and all that. So first of all, you've got the problem of people turning around, and that same problem affects church when things are being loaded in and out, or other times when there's a particular activity level. So that's one issue. And the other issue that goes along with it is that the exit from that space has particularly bad sight lines from up above. And so everybody has remarked about their anxiety about coming out there because you can't, because of the way the property is, you can't see people coming down the hill, either bicycles or cars, as well as cars turn left from South Union and, come without you having anticipated it. So there's an ongoing, these are really, as Jeff said, they're kind of legacy problems, but we're trying to solve them. We've been doing a lot of work on the basement to make it better for the Y. They're restarting their daycare this summer. And we just felt like the only really adequate solution would be to cause this to be a one-way process. And the other alternative, which would be to turn and go out in the library lot, would be more apt to take up several parking spaces rather than just one. So the straightforward one is cleaner. And there are other issues, like we hope to build to create an elevator at some point, and the only possible location in all of the property would require a drop off at this back entrance as well. So there are all sorts of reasons why we really would hope to do this. And I'd be happy to answer questions or whatever.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, that it on your side? Yeah, you're muted. I'm not so good.
Did I leave out anything? I'm not,
I'm just checking in with Jeff right now.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to mention, these are the pictures that were sort of black and white and not terribly readable in the packet. So just put these up on, these are just photos of the parking spot. This would be the space that would be removed right here. Here it is, right, there's 3 spaces. These 2 spaces would be straightened out, and this space would become traffic. That's their proposal. So.
And there's some modification to the curbing that we would take care of.
Right.
Okay.
Right here.
Thank you. At this time, then, we'll bring it to commissioners for questions. So to be fair, I can't see all commissioners on my little window here. I guess maybe I can if I scroll. So I'm going to kind of make it just leave it open. So please just speak up if you have any types of questions. Just hard to see everyone at one time. Any questions about this particular project?
This is Chris. I have a question.
Yeah, go for it, please, Commissioner Goodman.
Yeah, my question is, obviously the one issue here is that we are not able to make this permanent because of the Memorial Auditorium redevelopment. I just wanted to make sure it was clear. My only concern would be that we've essentially committed to it being permanent because of the construction being done as part of this project. I guess either of you can answer this, but I'm just interested in making sure that it's transparent that we are not able to approve this as a permanent solution at this time.
Yeah, I'll chime in there. So the motion is clearly time limited, or not time limited. It's not permanent. And if they remove this curb, putting a meter back is not. It doesn't preclude putting a meter back. I guess that's what I'm saying. There's no construction that's would preclude us from just literally going back and sticking a meter back in there, dropping some railroad ties or a Jersey barrier or something. So.
But may I speak?
I'm letting about me. Yeah, go ahead, Annie.
Well, I mean, this is an important thing for us. So we would hope that just putting a meter back in wouldn't be a future action, and we recognize that it can't be in perpetuity, but it's our understanding that the driveways will probably be maintained, and so we would like to just get this set so that we're part of the discussion in the future.
Yeah, I think all of the risk is on the church's side. They're spending the money. It's an improvement that they want. There's not really any downside risk to us. If Memorial demands that space be used, then we have to repo it, so to speak.
Yeah, and again, my question is less from I'm worried about the single parking space, is just, again, understanding that depending on whatever is eventually done with Memorial, that if something about the site changes and that space, that egress point is no longer viable, that's why we can't make the commitment.
Right. And that's
I'm sure that's obviously there. Our language is clear, so I support language. My concern is we enter into something and
right.
The
So
expectation is it remains.
Commissioner Gilman's starting to break up on us there. Unsure if if you need to feed the squirrel or whatever that is.
Well, I think to your point, Chris, is that item 5 here, condition 5, is for a time period such that the city can reasonably accommodate the access and is revocable by the city at the city's discretion. So that gives the city all the control. And to be clear, this is just the motion. What we're basically saying is, can we go to a lawyer with this language and have the lawyer make this happen? Because this has to be a legal document. So that's what we're looking for the authority to do, is enter into this with the church. Well, that's what the church is looking to do, I should say.
To be clear then on the action, Jeff, are we just approving entering legal negotiations, or are we approving the plans as has been submitted?
This is it. This is the motion. Authorize the Department of Public Works to enter into a contract agreement agreeable to the city attorney. So the city attorney won't be writing the agreement. It will be their attorney writing the agreement, but our city attorney will agree to it. That allows an easement for traffic flow from the College Street church property to exit across Memorial Auditorium property. Remove 1 parking space, realign 2 adjacent parking spaces, and perform the necessary related construction at their cost and to the city standards. In exchange, the church pays $75 a month, and the city can revoke this at any time at the city's discretion.
Okay, so does that imply that we will be revisiting this if those negotiations worked out to a certain extent?
Well, we can certainly add a clause in there that says that you authorize us to enter into the negotiations and subject to approval by you, for sure. We could
I know
come
we
back to you.
can. I know we can, but I'm asking what this is.
What this is the author is to enter into a contract agreement that has all those things. So this is
So
asking
we're not
for
permitting any plan, any particular plans. We're just not saying we would be allowing the entering of a contract, and we are not
Entering into-
allowing any plans.
entering into a contract, but they're entering into a contract that allows easement for traffic flow from the College Street property across Memorial Auditorium, removing one space and realign. So what we're asking for is, I guess, technically the relatively broad authority to enter into this agreement. Now, so it's not saying that, I say what you're saying, it's not saying, oh, where'd my picture go? It doesn't specifically say this spot, and it doesn't specifically say these plans. However, they have a packet that they've put together, and it's been signed off by CETO, and it's ready to go for permitting. So these are the plans. These are the plans that will go with that agreement.
So I just needed clarity. The way you were explaining it, it was almost as if we were only approving some, I don't know, an entry to a legal phase to this thing versus the actual plans itself.
No,
Okay.
We can certainly add a part to the motion that says in accordance with the plans submitted to
Sure.
Scott and company. Which are these plans? Which are the plans that are included in the packet?
Okay, understood. Commissioner Goodman, I didn't mean to cut you off from your questioning. Just thought for clarity purposes, I wanted to get an understanding on that.
Yep. No, and I'm comfortable approving the removal of one, giving the authority to remove up to one spot as well. So I guess just to be clear, if that's what we're voting on, I would be comfortable with that. My point was just that making sure we all understand that we've essentially granted approval for something that caused construction, but that could be taken away in the future. So.
Yep. Andrea and I have had that hard conversation.
Yeah. May I just say one thing?
Sure.
Also, given everything that's happening, it's not like we're going to do this tomorrow. It probably will be a year from now when we actually make the move. But we do have the money put aside, and this would enable us to go forward.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Other commissioners with questions or concerns on this piece?
This is Peggy.
Go ahead, Commissioner O'Neill, please.
Okay. Do you have a sense of the flow of traffic, like the number of vehicles that will be flowing through that lot? Wondering if they're going to be turning onto South Union or to Main Street. I ask because that is also, South Union is a major thoroughfare for kids walking and biking to Edmonds L and Edmonds Middle School, certainly at the time of drop off or around the time of drop off for the preschool, and then after school, kind of going that way to the Y. So just being cognizant of the bike ped traffic of, middle schoolers who have a whole different way of thinking about space and vehicles. So getting a sense of what that traffic flow might be like would be helpful.
Yeah, it's not a huge amount of traffic. And I'm trying to figure out, I'm trying to remember what they're moving from all ages to infant care, basically.
Okay.
And I believe it's maybe 24, it's not either 18 to 24, okay, somewhere in there.
Okay,
and
that's good.
Several times it's more than, some people have more than one baby, but so that's the most. And then when the church is active, it's more apt to be,
the weekends,
evenings and weekends, other than single passageways. And then it would also involve the people that park there, which are the spaces are rented to shopkeepers. But that would be just one at a time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So do you foresee, and maybe this is to Jeff, would this be used as a cut through? I don't know. I don't even know why you would use it as a cut through, but I don't know. People in cars do crazy things. If you're stuck behind the bus on College Street and you want to kind of zip out and cut through there, wondering if.
Or have to use the library.
Uh-huh. Okay.
I would say that too. The library is a
Okay.
pretty wide space.
It's known to be a public space, whereas, ours is known to be a private space, so.
Okay. All right, that's it for me.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Neill. Other commissioner questions? And I'm just going to kind of listen here. I have some questions, so I'm pausing for a moment because I would love to entertain thoughts from the others here. Okay, hearing none, a few questions from me here. Read the memo, looked at the reasons. Item number 2 says that cites one of the reasons for doing this as resulting safety issues for YMCA's basement daycare center infant drop-off. And it's been mentioned a couple times here. My understanding is that the Y moved at the end of December, so effective January 1st of this year. Are you saying there's still a presence of some kind of childcare in that basement?
Yes, actually, we've been renovating the space with their participation, and they're restarting the infant care this summer. And also part of their commitment when they got approvals for the new building was that they were actually increasing their level of infant care. And they've been paying rent all during this period of time in order to assure that they have the space.
At the location that they've traditionally been located then?
Yes, they were always here. They were here before.
I know they were there before, but I'm trying to seek clarity on the continuing service of childcare. And knowing that the YMCA has moved up the street, I just wanted to confirm that they are still offering services out of that building where they traditionally
Well,
have
it's been closed for the last 6 months, but it's reopening because they've shifted the nature of the care from older kids to infant care. And we've been jointly renovating the space.
Sorry. To be clear, Andrea, I think we're talking past each other. The question is, they're doing this infant care in the basement of the church, not in their old
the
space.
church.
Correct?
Yeah, it's the church.
All right.
Right.
Sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
The church is providing childcare for the YMCA in the church.
Yeah.
So that was a major piece that was unclear in the information provided. It just referenced the YMCA's basement daycare. I know from the YMCA being across the street from the church that they also had a basement and they also had daycare in that spot. So it seemed.
Apologize, I didn't realize it was confusing.
It was for me. So that's it. So I'm glad to get clarity. So it sounds like the church is hosting daycare for the YMCA out of its own basement. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, that is true.
Okay. Item number 3 mentioned safe driveway exit on a College Street, given an ever-increasing east-west traffic, including buses and so on.
Yeah.
How do we know there's increased traffic?
Well, I mean, we haven't done a study, but our experience is that there's a lot and that there are more. I mean, if we go back to normal, who knows what we'll go back to, but sure. That the bicycle traffic particularly has increased, and you've got the buses, and it just has constant. I mean, this is a long-term problem, so whether it's increased or not is not the primary issue for us anyway. It's just that it's very active, and people feel like they're taking their life in their hands when they come out.
Well, it's a busy spot, no doubt. I think we all have been through there and witnessed the amount of traffic. But to say that it's been increasing traffic is not necessarily accurate. And it sounds like a traffic study has not been done in this location. I wanted to confirm that.
It's my perception. It's our perception.
Understood. Okay.
Has increased.
Thank you.
And it's not just me. I mean, there's
perception. I'm looking more to see if a traffic study was done. It sounds like it has not been done. Okay. Item number 4 says, excuse me, please, anticipation of increased hazard if and when hotel plan for the former YMCA building will move forward, and cites the underground parking lot anticipated there. So wanted to know if, since this is one of the reasons, what are we anticipating from that facility? Are we looking at a timeline for that? Do they have permitting for that underground garage? Are there plans that we could see to see how that traffic flow may interfere with this particular plan?
Are you asking me? Well, if you looked at the plan.
Well, in truth, perhaps if you don't mind, if I could ask Jeff first as our representative from the department.
I think the idea is that this proposal removes conflict from College Street. So no matter what happens on College Street, whether traffic is going up or traffic is going down or whatever's happening, this is removing a conflict point from the street. So that's why I'm comfortable with the lack of a traffic study for this scale of effort, where the conflicts are being reduced at a place where there's a perception that it's already busy. And whether it gets busier or not, it's not really relevant. It's just reducing a conflict point there.
But so Jeff, aren't you really just moving that conflict point from College Street over to South Union?
Well, on South Union's a one-way street. So it's a reduced
so when you say conflict, you mean the two-way conflict?
Well, when you're exiting onto College Street, you can exit right or exit left, right? So there's
Correct.
two conflict points there. When you're exiting onto Union, there's only one conflict point. And the sight lines are, I mean, I haven't measured the sight lines, but anecdotally, because I've lived here a long time, I know the sight lines on Union Street are broader. Chapin's got his hand up.
I can provide some information while the conversation was going on. I just took a look on the state's website for ADT, the average daily traffic on Union Street, which is around 3,000 to 4,000 vehicles a day. College Street, while it wasn't immediately adjacent to this property, it was closer to downtown, was ADT 4,000 to 5,000 plus. So there's additional ADT, there's more traffic on College Street than Union Street. And regarding Tiki's very valid question about the Cambria Hotel project, we did reach out to Planning and Zoning today, as well as CEDO, to get an update on that project. They have proceeded quite far. What they are waiting for is Act 250. And they do have a path, they say, that can get started with demolition later this season. But the legislature in August 2020 will be discussing Act 250 and whether or not this project in a designated downtown will need to go through Act 250 or not. If it does not need to go through Act 250, then construction could very well start this year.
Thank you. Jeff, back to sightlines. When you say sightlines, you're talking about entry/exit from I'll call it the lot out onto either street. Is that what you're referencing?
Onto South Union, correct.
Okay. So speaking of sight lines, that was one of my questions. So let's say we go through, we cut a little path through there for cars. It seems that someone emerging from that lot, 'cause it sounds like they'll be exiting out from what I see on the south end of the lot, would have an obstructed view to the right, so looking west as they emerge from that lot. What are the sightline implications there?
Fundamentally, that what is now this parking spot will become the corridor for the, doesn't have to be so small. There we go. So fundamentally, what will happen is this space will turn into the corridor where a vehicle is traveling, right? So just like this car backing up and pulling into this space, this car driving through will be entering into what is now a space and exiting from that space. So they'll either go this way or they'll go this way. So it's a very similar situation. You have a car in this space, either going that way or this way.
But different usage, where you have a stopped car trying to reverse into a parking lot versus actual traffic emerging from a parking lot in motion and looking to exit at a certain point.
Well, it's parking lot traffic. There's vehicles traveling all through here. There's vehicles traveling all around in here. There's vehicles traveling up and down in here. And it's a parking lot. So. Right.
So I just need to confirm. I mean, so our sight lines are not a concern in a parking lot then?
Not in the same fashion. I mean, yes, you need to see around the corner, but I don't see. I mean, what is limiting when this car comes out of here, and they're in this position right here, they need to look over here and see if they're coming, which they can do, which they would do now if they were parked there.
Right, but again, that car is stopped, whereas traffic emerging from that lot will already be in motion.
May I
Moving
make a
on.
comment?
Sure.
Yeah. So just to let you know that there's not a whole lot of traffic really, because the parking spaces for the most part are used for a full day. So it's not like even the library lot where there are people coming and going all the time. And so the main thing is the drop off for the daycare and you know, church traffic. So
Thank you.
These spaces are, I'm sorry, Tiki, these spaces are rented out during the day.
at least, yeah.
But that's the church's lot, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Just so you understand, it's not like there's traffic going in and out and in and out and in and out. These cars come in, they park, and they stay all day.
And if they don't, nobody else comes into the space. I mean, it's just one person.
So I'm not, yeah. So to be clear, I'm not concerned about the status of those spaces. That by creating an exit point here, we are inherently creating a traffic flow at this particular location. And so sight lines are a concern of mine. And of not, you know, I hear what you're saying, that you're saying they're already a concern, and I'm saying this is a different situation altogether. So I think I have my answer, so I'm ready to move on here.
Well, there isn't a lot of traffic there already.
What does that mean? I mean, is there any traffic there? Is there, can you say that there'll be no traffic at the time that cars might be emerging from that lot?
No, I can't say anything.
That's the thing.
I just know it from experience, having watched it and trying to watch the whole thing. There are very few, I mean, traffic coming down is almost minimal.
Right, but we don't have that kind of data to say what equals minimal. If I'm the person whose car gets hit, it's not going to be a minimal situation. Another question here, on the ramp that's going down, so from South Union, and it doesn't represent well here, but I know that's a nice steep hill. Yeah, thank you. Steep hill down to that point. Let me just confirm, is that still, that's effectively two-way traffic, is that right?
It is.
It's not restricted to any one direction. Okay. Okay, and so cars do enter and exit in that place, even today from the library, as I understand it. Even if it's very narrow, I think cars kind of have to squeeze by each other at that place. Let's say there's a car who is emerging from the church lot in this plan scenario here, and there's a car coming down that hill. Who has the right of way?
Coming down the hill.
Is that true, Jeff?
Which is the same. It's the same scenario you have in the parking lot when you go down to the U Mall. When you exit from one parking bay to another parking bay, the person on the right has the right of way. Is that right? Great rule, right? So that would be the person.
Yeah. But that's sort of the stop sign scenario, right? Are you saying there's going to be a stop sign at the bottom?
No, what I'm saying is it functions similarly to if you go to a large parking lot and there's uncontrolled intersections in the middle of a large parking lot. This is a low volume, uncontrolled intersection. There are AASHTO standards for uncontrolled intersections, and we could do a traffic study here, but it's my feeling that the volumes are so low that it doesn't warrant a traffic study. My intuition is that Andrea's intuition is correct. If you feel like you need more data, or and that's up to Andrea to provide that additional data, I was satisfied.
All right, but going to my user question here, which is I'm a user. I got my car. I'm coming out of the church lot, exiting out to there, and there's now a conflict because a car is coming down the ramp. Who has the right of way?
That is I don't know. I'm gonna tell you, I don't know. I think I think it's a practical reality of how many parking lots work. We have the same scenario over here.
Yeah.
Who has the right of way here? when this car is coming here and this car is coming down here, who has the right of way? When this car is coming through here and this car is trying to exit, who has the right of way? We have this occur all over the place. And at low volume spaces like this, where we have a controlled environment, where we know that we have only these 12 or 14 cars, and we know that there's only 20 babies going in there during like rush hour times when kids would be walking here. That's not a very big concern of mine. On Sundays, it's been doing this for 100 years this way. So.
Okay. Here again, my experience is this is immediately at the bottom of a big hill where visibility may be a little bit limited, especially for cars coming down on that hill, and poses a conflict point there that, yeah, there might be low traffic. But from a user standpoint, here again, are we speaking to the users and trying to avoid those conflicts that vehicles may be facing with each other? We're introducing another conflict point.
I don't know if I could just say that, I've stood there and watched it, and I mean, the sight lines are very clear coming down that drive.
So we have a paved cut from the church lot into the bottom of that hill today?
No. What?
No, exactly.
No, but I mean, I've watched traffic come down there, and it's
right.
The sight line is.
I'm playing out a scenario that anticipates traffic emerging from the lot and coming down that hill. So there is no one who has experience in gauging that kind of conflict at that particular point. Just a clarification purpose, in the packet said that the estimated cost through J.A. Morrissey was $22.96.
I'm sorry, there needs to be a comma, not a period.
Okay. I assume that. Just wanted to be sure. The other piece with that is, with that kind of investment, does this obligate the city to something? So let's say, just if I were in the shoes of spending $22,000 and then the city revoked that spot a month later, I wouldn't be terribly happy about that. So what considerations from a department angle, perhaps Jeff, this is a question for you, do you feel we need to honor a certain amount of time if this were to go through due to the costs involved?
No, this is, item 5, for a time period such as the city can reasonably accommodate the access and is revocable at the city's discretion. And that's what I want. I want the lawyer to write that in a lawyer way. That's what I want. I need a lawyer to make it happen. Mm-hmm. And we're looking for the authority from you guys to go to the lawyer and create the proper document that will makes this happen.
Sure. Okay.
I mean, obviously we would hope that there would be some notice, and that we're surrounded by the city, and we're trapped. Right. But I would think that there would be a good neighborly approach, and I'm confident that that would be the case.
Yeah, we've used terms like good faith. That's what we're.
Okay. So last question on this, and I apologize for belaboring this matter here. I did submit questions on Sunday evening on this matter. Did not hear anything back. Followed up Tuesday afternoon to see if those questions could be answered, and was effectively told I got all the information I'm going to get. So I am disappointed by that, because I was hoping for a little more clarity that would help drive me forward. But I think the way this has been handled, if I had a little more information, I could make a judgment in the affirmative. But I don't see that with the way this has gone and the information at hand here, that I could move forward with this, since this is coming to a vote, given the additional conflict points, sightline considerations. Again, this is from my point of view. And other variables that perhaps weren't quite clear from the packet, such as the YMCA's basement access in the church there. So my own hunch is I am voting no on this for my own safety concerns, as I see it from my own experience on this commission for a number of years, and the way this information has not really flowed in a congenial way. So that's my piece. We're still on commissioner comments. Other commissioners have thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a quick comment that I I just wanted to express my support for this proposal. From my perspective, at least, it made a compelling case. I thought it was fairly straightforward, and I did not have concerns with it. So I'll just leave it at that. Thanks.
Thank you. Other commissioners? Okay, at this time we go to public comment in case there are.
Wait,
I was raising my hand, but you just didn't see it.
So yeah, you have to speak up.
That's okay. I guess I should have just said something. I was sort of doing the wave the hand thing, but that wasn't working. I too want to support this. I really do think that the exit point onto College Street, because there are cars on both sides of the driveway. I mean, we could look at sight lines based on, we could take a few more parking spots away to give them some sight lines, but I think this has been well thought out. Parking lots are slow moving. I just feel like it's the best way to make it a safer environment for people to use the parking area and not have to try to get out onto College Street. So I wholeheartedly support this proposal.
Thank you, Commissioner Overby. I do see Commissioner Barr waving his hand. Thank you.
Sure. I'm trying to do the same thing that Solveig did.
It's hard to see everybody.
Yeah, so I wanted to say that I also support this, but I don't want to disregard your concerns, Tiki. Walking into this or coming into this, I had similar concerns, but I believe based on the answers that I've heard that I am satisfied that, going next step to the legal to get this written up, I feel confident that it's a good move. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Barr. Other commissioners, and again, I apologize. I don't have a nice little grid view that allows me to see everybody. Seeing and hearing none, and I'm scanning through now.
Hey, Jacob, did you raise your hand, or are you just waving?
That's fine.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I missed you there. Sorry, please.
No problem. I will just be quick in saying Tiki is correct that he asked questions on Sunday. We were able to speak on Tuesday. I had fully intended to respond in writing to your questions. We did get a chance to talk verbally. This COVID ride has been intense, and I do apologize, and I just want to take ownership that our goal is to be responsive to commissioners as much as we can. Thank you.
Understood. And we have very limited time to review this packet. When we're talking 7-day turnover, I understand there's COVID and there's no other way about it. That's the only way. Got to have answers. So again, thank you. It doesn't sway my vote, but nonetheless, public comment on this particular item at this time. I'll look to you, Mr. Goulding, to let me know where we stand.
We don't have any members of the public in the email inbox at this time. I do see a raised hand from staff at Permitting and Inspections. Brad, if you wanted to speak to this item, you're unmuted at this point.
I would just suggest that you reach out to the Fire Marshal's office for this point, because this affects fire department access.
Yep. Yeah, I forwarded that email over to Andrea, and that will certainly come up, I'm sure, as part of the zoning review process.
Okay, well, that should go to Barry Samays, Fire Marshal.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that, Brad. Okay.
You got it?
As yet another reason, in my book for this is just not, it's in the oven. It's just not ready to come out yet. So if this must go to a vote, we will do that. So that was our public comment. Mr. Goulding, no other public comments?
Chairman, looks like someone else just joined and it's not clear who that is. So if someone
joined or raised hand?
Someone just joined on the attendee side, and it's not clear if they might be a member of the public or not.
Okay.
So,
well,
just one.
Yeah, if there's not a raised hand or you don't see any intonations that there's a speaker piece going on, maybe we'll move on here. Okay, bringing the action back to the commission, we are requested for a vote on this matter. So is anyone willing to make a motion?
I'll move to pass the motion or the proposal, please.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowes. We have a motion to pass. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded, Commissioner Barr. Thank you very much. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing none, We will do roll call, knowing where this is going. And I see you, Commissioner Bowes, at the top of the list. So your vote on this motion, please.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Barr?
Aye.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, my screen just got messed up. I think Jeff stopped screen sharing. That's what did it. Sorry, Commissioner Overby, please, your vote.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Neill?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hogan?
Aye.
Commissioner Gilman?
Aye.
Okay, and my vote is no. So near unanimous vote, and the motion carries given the votes, and it will move forward.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you all for your time.
We'll be back in a little bit.
Thank you. Moving on to item 6, appeal of building permit after the fact fee. We have communication from our new permitting department.
Hello, good evening.
Hi there.
Hey, Bill.
Welcome.
Thank you. I have been texting back and forth with Rob in DPW Communications and trying to see if we can find the appellant. I've not heard back, and I don't have a confirmation from him about receiving the email. When I sent it, I assumed not hearing meant he might have been upset about the fee and he wasn't going to talk to me until the meeting. But at this point, I can't confirm that he has accepted it and understands that it's tonight. So I'm hesitant to move forward and ask for you to take any additional testimony from me or for Brad at this point, other than what we submitted in the packet. And unless someone on the DPW side, or if Rob could perhaps maybe announce and see if the person is on in the waiting room, if that's the one person that's there, they could raise their hand.
Thanks, Director Ward. At this time, there's nobody from the public that's unidentified.
So one thing I will say, Chair Archambault, I would say that he did indicate he wanted to submit emails, and I don't know that there's a specific time certain issue other than because the fee was paid and he wanted to preserve his right to appeal that. So there was a permit fee, and then there was an after the fact permit fee of the 1% of that cost. So he did pay that. It's not holding up the project or things moving forward. So I'll defer to you on how you want to proceed without him present. I'm hesitant to move forward to spend time on it. If this means he's withdrawing his appeal, I'd be happy to confirm that with him tomorrow, or ask him to explain how he wasn't here tonight and send a communication to the board about what happened.
Sure. Thank you for that. This is where I start the classic line. I'm no lawyer, but you do that expert thing. But given that you're saying he's paid the after the fact fee as of today, yes?
Yes, actually back to June 1st.
And so it's paid in full.
It's paid in full, but
Okay.
he did want to appeal that. I'll just share one thing I had shared with him was I knew that the building costs were approximately $140,000. And we did, as you've seen in our written testimony, or my written testimony, I told him we had told you could go forward with the repair of the roof because that didn't require the zoning permit.
Yeah.
We could deal with that administratively when Brad Biggie, who's also on this call, dealt with the building permit once the zoning permit was approved. But there were pre-release conditions on the zoning permit. They actually didn't get met until May 27th. And so again, we stopped the work a week after the day we said they could work on the roof to just do the roof repair, which wouldn't have required a zoning permit. I would have taken that if he had said a dollar figure. I sent it to him by email when he said he wanted to appeal this. I said, I will offer, before we get to that point, if you tell us what the dollar figure is on that roof repair, we will reduce the overall cost by that amount, and then go ahead with the 1% based on that amount. But he never provided that amount because I think he intended to appeal the full thing. So I'd like to be able to say he had proper notice, and I did not hear back from the communication that I sent to him. So I don't have the ability to say with strict confidence that he knows, is aware, and either was not intending or couldn't attend for some other emergency.
So just from my quasi judicial experience here with these types of appeals, I mean, number one, it seems as though you followed through with all communications to announce his right to appeal and the announcing the date with this particular instance based on the information in our packet. And then number two, effectively, there's nothing to appeal at this point because he's paid his arrears in full. And so I don't see that any action is necessary at this point by the commission, but I would like to maybe go to my fellow commissioners and gather their thoughts, if you don't mind. Fellow commissioners, your thoughts? Commissioner Overby, please.
I think that I would defer to Bill Ward's suggestion that we don't do anything until we know that the other party is either not appealing anymore or wants to proceed. I have some significant questions about the timeline and the process. So I would like to have those, have value if that's with the person here, and for our benefit generally. But I'm not going to proceed with all my questions, and I would prefer not to, as long as we don't really know where the other party is. So I appreciate your deciding that we should wait. That would be my suggestion, that we wait until the next meeting, and we'll know between now and then whether or not this is going to go forward, or the accommodation that you suggested about the fee being assessed on a smaller amount. Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Overby. Other commissioner thoughts on how to proceed at this point? I didn't know if Commissioner Gilman, you had a thought earlier.
No, the only thing that wasn't clear to me is if the total amount paid is now, that was proposed, is equal to what it would have been had we known it was going to be 140,000 from the beginning. I think you were saying, Bill, with your comment you just made, that you were going to essentially make that so. You'd proposed to make that so, and at one point, but if the appellant's not here and there's no debate, then we table it until there's a formal, I think we table it until there's a formal appeal, which probably requires that person to be here. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Gilman. Other commissioners' thoughts? Question for you, sure, this may be for you, Mr. Ward, and perhaps for Chapin as well. Usually with appeals, we have some kind of counsel present for parties like ours. Unsure, this is the first appeal under the new permitting department that we had. What are your thoughts on that?
I spoke with Kim Sturdivant about this because I just expressed, I know they're really busy too, and I felt like this was a relatively simple matter for us. So I made sure that she knew I was not requesting that, our side of this gets a lawyer to help us, because I thought it was unnecessary and the facts were very straightforward and it was pretty basic in its nature. And honestly, if you ended up deciding that we were wrong, I wouldn't have an objection to that. It is what it is. It's a fee. It's if we have a project that gets completed without getting a permit, there's an after the fact fee of 1%. And that, I don't see that there's a lot of discretion for me, but if you said you agreed with him and said that is excessive, you're not going to charge it, we would not appeal that. We would move forward with whatever your decision. And again, I told Kim Sturdivant that I think she had said she was going to check in with Tim in their office to see if there was going to be an attorney for the commission, but I didn't directly talk with them about what would happen or who would present. So I just know for our side, I specifically asked not to have an attorney with us helping to present this case.
Okay, thank you. Chapin, want to give you a chance to chime in here too with your thoughts.
I think given that the appellant's not here, the proper thing would be to delay and to revisit after Bill hears an affirmative direction from them.
Thank you very much. Admittedly torn, because if there was a process and it has been followed, then a part of me thinks we need to honor that process. Otherwise, why have a process? But I am, in light of circumstances, happy to follow your recommendation here, Bill, and do what's needed. So that means we're effectively not hearing an appeal this evening. That's what I'm wondering.
Let me just make a motion.
Yeah, let's do it.
Motion
Okay.
to table.
And what's the motion exactly then,
The
Commissioner Barr?
motion to table until either a case can be made or they can solve it outside of this body.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Do we have a second on that?
Seconded.
I second that.
Oh, I heard Commissioner Gilman come in just in the nick of time there. Thank you very much. Any discussion on that piece? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. All right. So it carries unanimously. So it does. We're following your advice here, Bill, and hope it pans out that maybe nothing will come of it.
Thank you. And maybe a lesson learned on my side, I will send a registered mail in advance next time. That way we have something, even if they choose not to communicate, they will have, I'll be able to give you confirmation that they received it.
Sure. Yeah. But it shows you're making accommodations, especially in this unique environment right now. And, we're going to all lengths to honor any sort of possibilities here. So fair enough.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Brad. All right, so that closes item 6, the appeal. We will not need to go to executive session for that later. Item number 7, garage rate structure and policy adjustment. And we welcome back Mr. Padgett.
I'm back.
Welcome.
Thank you. So my screen, I got like to see all of you people here. So I'm just going to take a little bit of a deep breath here before we dive in, because this is a big deal. We are talking about major changes to how the garages operate, things that haven't changed in 20, 25 years. So please be aware that nothing we're going to talk about tonight has been taken lightly. And it's been building for months and months, if not years and years. But a number of things happened to force our hand to push us towards coming to you tonight. Particularly the vote by the Church Street Marketplace Commission to cut the funding for the Downtown Improvement District by half. That was sort of the last domino that really pushed us towards considering these sweeping changes. So with that as a preamble, Chapin, is there anything you wanted to chime in about any of this? No? Okay.
I think you can continue, Jeff. Thank you.
Okay, great. So I'm going to try to make this as linear and simple as possible, but it might get a little circular, so please stop me or whatever. But basically, we're doing 3 things. We want to reflect how the DID funding change affected the 2-hour free program and modify the 2-hour free program to accommodate that funding situation. We want to formally account for holidays in the ordinance. Our rates the rate structure is governed by Chapter 19, Appendix C, Chapter 19, and when we are free on holidays, there's nothing in there right now that says that holidays are free. We are just doing it. So I want to fix the code so that it matches operations. And similar to that, but going towards a flexibility point of view, there are a number of things that we need to do operationally that we are not allowed to do because not that we're not allowed to do it. We're not allowed to do it because it's not expressly allowed by ordinance. So if we have a customer service, for example, simple example, we have a customer service issue. Someone comes to the gate and they're belligerent, they're rowdy, whatever, and the ambassador lets them out, just says, get out of our garage. that's technically violating ordinance because there's nothing in the ordinance that says you are allowed to let people out based on the discretion of the ambassador for any reason. Similarly, prorating. If somebody buys their pass in the middle of the month, we're not allowed in ordinance to sell it to them for 40 bucks versus 80 because the ordinance says the monthly rate shall be $80. And it's just that. So that's what we're trying, the next multiple pages and the ordinance following that are trying to sort of explain all of that context in a little more detail. So I'll flip down to the next page here and we'll just dive in. So first thing, rates. So because the Downtown Improvement District, they used to generate about $300,000 for DPW. And DPW used that money to subsidize 2 hours free, which actually costs about $700,000. Then the story gets a little more complicated, but the long and the short of it is the DID was funded now to $150,000. Well, it was unreasonable to have a $700,000 program subsidized by 300. It's certainly even more unreasonable to have $150,000 try to subsidize 700,000. So what we looked at was occupancy rates in the Lakeview and College Street garage. And in Lakeview and College, the occupancy at 2 hours is about $150,000, $180,000 or so. So we said, okay, we need to take 2 hours free out of the Marketplace garage and only have it at the Lakeview garage. And also the Marketplace garage is currently way, way overused. It's shut down 3 to 4 days a week, 2 or 3 times a day. They're closing it, they're opening it. I mean, we don't need 2 hour free from a business perspective down in the Marketplace garage. I've met with the downtown merchants. I've met with the Church Street Marketplace Commission. They know all about all of this context that I'm explaining to you. And they sort of said, yeah, we don't need 2 hours free. What we need is convenient parking. So if we don't have 2 hours free, we're going to have increased turnover at Marketplace, which will create more opportunity, which will create more convenience, and also push more people to the Lakeview garage. So that's sort of some of the more broad thinking around this. Brass tacks, what it comes down to, 2 hours free at Lakeview stays, 2 hours free at Marketplace goes away. So I was also then looking at the Lakeview garage, and I said, well, if we take the 2 hours free away, the whole 2.5 hour, 3 hour, 3.5 hour, it's all very confusing. We just want it to be $1 an hour. Easy peasy. Well, how much does it cost to park at Lakeview? $1 an hour. Right now, you can't say that. I mean, I'm in these conversations all the time, so I understand, I get the confusion that people have. So that's what we did, is we just evened it out so that it's $1 an hour over, so if you're there for over 2 hours, you're paying $3 because it's $1 an hour. You paid for the first hour, you paid for the second hour. It's only 2 hours for the 2 hours in the first window. If that makes sense. If you leave before 2 hours, it's 2 hours free. If you stay for more than 2 hours, you got to pay for those 2 hours. And so we've simplified the rate structure. The rate structure at the Marketplace garage stayed exactly the same, except we made it $1 an hour for the first 2 hours. So we just took the 2 hours away, put $1 out, $1 for the first hour, $1 to get to the second hour, and then another $1 at 2.5, $1 at 3, $1 at 3.5. So it's a little complicated. I wanted to simplify Marketplace. We didn't get there, but I think this is better, and it works. It represents no change in rates at Marketplace except for these additional 2 hours, and it represents actually some discounting of parking at Lakeview and College. So what we're trying to do from a business perspective is we're trying to drive people to Lakeview and College. It's so underutilized. I mean, you've heard me say it before. So that's the first thing that we want to do, and this was directly driven by the DID funding. Second, here's the holidays. We wanted to be explicit in the ordinance that these are our holidays and it is free on these holidays. Now, the special holiday we have is 4th of July. For public safety, what we do on 4th of July is have a flat rate. So you come in, if you park before 5 o'clock and you leave before 10 o'clock or something like that, it's $5. So the ambassadors could just stand, and it's prepay. So then at 10 o'clock, we open the gates, the police are in charge, they're shuffling everybody around. So it's free flow in and a free flow out. There's no cash exchanging at the exit. We worked directly with the police on coordinating all of this, and it works quite well. And they've been doing it for years, but it's never been allowed by ordinance. We'd like to have the flexibility to organize July 3rd in the best way possible to help the police. Then third, we have a variety of, I think 11, yeah, one slipped over there, 11 policy changes that we think will help give us the flexibility to run the day-to-day operations of the garage and optimize its efficiency, its functionality. It just helps us to run it a little bit more like a business. So what we'd like to do is have the ability to set temporary rates. So Chapin would have the ability to set temporary rates for special events or promotional periods. You know, we notify the Public Works Commission, and it would be short durations. So similar to the pilot authority that he has for meters, we'd have that pilot authority in the garages. So if some organization wants to come and have a festival or something, we can do a pilot program and say, okay, let's do some vouchers and validations and give you some kind of a discount, and let's experiment with how this business model works. Second, we'd like to have the authority to create special bulk rate packages, because we have this issue with we have a number of customers that would like to buy parking for their employees, but they're not on a standard schedule. They're not Monday through Friday workers, but they're also not Monday through Saturday workers. So right now, but they'll work, Tuesday through Saturday, then the next week they'll work Sunday to Thursday. They bounce all around. So they don't want to have to buy a full $96 monthly pass because they don't use it. They're really only using a 5-day pass. So I want to be able to sell them a product that's a 20 park punch card. So that's basically a month, 5 days a week, and you can park anytime you want. And then it expires, sort of like your yoga card, right? And so we want to have the ability to make products like that are not strictly within the $80 or $96 per month. We want to increase the lost ticket rate to $20 to put a little more teeth in it. It's very easy for somebody who's thinking a little bit to park on a Monday and leave on a Friday and say, I lost my ticket. Right now it's $8. They just park for a week for $8. A lot of places would have that set at $80, but we're gonna go with 20. This is another thing. This is allow garage staff to refund, rebate, or otherwise waive parking fees on a case-by-case basis for customer service. Somebody comes in, they're having a particularly bad whatever. I mean, I'm in the garages quite a bit now. I see the emotion of the people that are leaving the garage sometimes, and it is fragile. I don't understand what happens in the garages, but people get a little bit, they need a soft touch. And having the ambassador have the ability to say, for whatever reason, you're having a bad day, I'm sorry this happened, here's a free parking coupon. Now understand, all of this is auditable. It's auditable down to the ambassador. We know who the ambassador is it would be giving these out, so we can track all of this. Free overnight parking. Here's another thing. Snow bans. When we open the garages and park for snow bans, there's nothing in the ordinance that allows us to give free parking overnight. We would need the authority to give free parking overnight. And we need to be able to define it, because it's been changed every couple of years. It changes, sometimes 8 to 8, sometimes 7 to 9, sometimes 10 to 6. We've got to be able to flex that time. So that's why it's sort of an open-ended request. Delegate authority to prorate monthly fees. I think I already mentioned that. We need to be able to prorate. Oh, we just want to define the 6-day permit as a 7-day permit because Sundays are free. So we might as well call it a 7-day. Every week I'm talking to somebody who gets confused as to what, well, I can park all the time on 6 days or 7 days in a week. And I say Sundays are free. So it's a little thing, but I tell you, I wouldn't put it here if it didn't matter. Similarly, 5-day permit, we need to define it as Monday through Friday. That's how we're doing it now. And I think it makes sense for many people. That's what they need to buy is Monday through Friday. But then we need the flexibility of that other product we talked about to sell people a 5-day bulk type product. Oh, and city employees. So another city department, all of the city departments have the ability to pay for parking for their staff in the Lakeview and College Street garage. And there's been an agreement or whatever that it costs $20. Well, there's nothing in ordinance that says that. So I would like to be an ordinance that other city departments, if they're buying parking for their staff, it costs $20. Same idea, some semantic thing about marketplace lower. Marketplace lower is a gated garage that basically, everybody who goes in there has their own space, more or less. That's a different topic, but yeah, that's what it is. There's no such thing as Sundays free there, whatever. So the only products the ordinance says we can sell are 5-day and 6-day. Well, we have to sell a 7-day product to marketplace lower people. This is the underneath of the marketplace garage. And finally, we need to recognize that the Lakeview garage, the College Street garage, and the Westlake garage operate as a single facility. The ordinance as it was written before was not clear about that as a definition, but they are a single, they're 3 structures with 3 different names, but they operate as a single facility. And the way that the ordinance that's attached to this is written, we have it's broken into 2 pieces. There's the marketplace garage, and then there's the Westlake College and Lakeview. So that's everything. Basically, what we believe is that the changes, they make the rates more clear and logical. It formalizes some legacy operational things that have been going on for decades. And it provides management with a little more support and flexibility to provide our customers with what they need. So talk a little about community impact. 2 hours free is, it's been here for 25 years. So that change will be noticed. There is no doubt that change will be noticed. But we've talked to the business community and downtown, and they are okay with that situation. We are also working, we have funding through DID to do a merchant validation program, and we're working with the merchants right now to set that up. So there could be a bridge sort of program. So merchants could actually continue to give 2 hours free, and that 2 hours free would be backfilled by different DID money. Simplification of the rates. I do believe that simplification of the rates is just good business. I think it makes life simple for people. And the ability to run pilot programs to support community events, I think is just good. I think, we need to be able to do that. So how does it impact us? These are all seem like sort of minutia, little wriggly things, but they all add up to making the garages easier to run. And we believe that changing these structures around could actually even make us more money. So I think, sort of in conclusion, the vast majority of what we're asking for tonight is house cleaning, getting the ordinance caught up with the reality of operations, and also responding to the funding reality from the DID, the reduction in the revenue from the DID. So I just talked a whole lot. So I'm happy to go back dig into any of these spots, let me know what you think.
Your voice has the power of comfort, Jeff. So please know this has been informative. So no worries. Thank you. We go to commissioners, and I'm going to try my best to scan through folks here. Any questions from commissioners on this item here? I saw Commissioner Bose first. I'm sorry. I actually saw hands raised this time, and then we'll go to you, Commissioner O'Neill, after.
Sorry, thanks. Jeff, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about, you said about the idea of a validation program with merchants. And I'm just wondering about if you could talk a little bit more about their sense of how they're feeling in terms of impact as we begin to try and rebuild business. So I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about that.
No, that's great, because I went to the business community specifically to ask that exact question. So when we were planning our phased restart of the garages opened Monday, by the way. Yay, we're getting money. One of the things that we were proposing to do, we actually had a three-prong approach. We said, okay, when we start enforcement of the meters and open the garages, we will start up a meter subsidy program. It's like give 1 hour free at the meters, and we'll do a merchant validation program so the merchants could give away like 4 hours free parking instead of just 2. And then we said we would do an employee free parking program funded from there's multiple different funding sources. Long and short is, and we thought this is great. We're trying to make it easier to come into town. Well, the resounding feedback I got from the business community was, don't do anything. Just make it simple, make life normal. But with the exception of the employee program, they really like the free parking for restaurant and retail employees. I'm actually actively standing it up right now. Past 2 days, I've been coordinating with business owners, and it's an online validation platform through our new software. It's called FlexVal, and they can actually print out validations for themselves and give to their employees so they can park for free at the Lakeview and College Street garage. But the idea of doing any more validation for more free parking, they were like, we can't even deal with it. We're so stressed out. Like, we just got to get back to something close to normal. That said, we have money from FY20 that we've rolled into FY21 because we didn't get to it because of COVID, for a specific merchant validation program for 2 hours free. So now that 2 hours free is gone from the marketplace garage, give us another month or two when things are calmed down a little. The merchants will be more interested in having a stack of validations next to their cash register that they can just hand out like candy to their customers as they come in. And that it may be more palatable at that time.
Okay.
Candy until the candy bowl runs out.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Bose. Commissioner O'Neill, please.
Okay. Great. I actually do love the idea of just kind of cleaning house and tidying things up a bit, like metaphorically and also really with the parking. The marketplace, I mean, since I moved here over 20 years ago, I always thought, why is this 2 hours free? Because there's just so much turnover and there's such congestion there. So I hope that this really yields some good revenue without too many complaints from folks. We'll get complaints, we know, but not too many. So one question I have is, in 2 points, you want to allow the garage staff, the ambassadors, to refund, rebate, or waive parking fees. And as there's this transition to, no longer 2 hour free, I would love to know, what are the policies and procedures that you're going to have in place for your staff? Because they're going to be on the front lines, and we want that good customer service, and also to support them, because for heaven's sakes, they're sucking fumes all day. They don't need to then be berated by someone who had a bad day. So how to make the process and the procedures more seamless for them, but also give them some backing and fortitude that they really feel like they can offer these rebates.
Right. So right now, if they let someone out, which they do regularly because of a variety of reasons, the system requires them to put a comment in and say why they've let that person out. So we can track the reasons there. And then empowering the ambassadors, giving them the authority, giving them not just the actual sense of authority, but the feeling, the emotion of authority to actually feel like they can give things away for free to customers, is a culture change, culture shift for sure. There has definitely been a concept communicated to them in the past about, theft of service, and people are trying to steal parking all the time. And you could ask any of them. I've been droning on for a year now. Nobody's trying to steal parking. Okay, a couple people, but we don't care about them so much. Let's make the rest of the people happy. And if a couple people steal parking, let their karma pay, So one of the things we did to this point is we used to, on the machines, there used to be a thing that said lost ticket. So you could press the lost ticket button yourself as a customer, and it would only charge you $8. So if you're going to steal and you've been there for a week, you just go to the lost ticket button, you press it, and then you don't have, you can run away, right? I took it off. And I said, if somebody loses their ticket, they have to press the help button. They have to go to an ambassador, and they have to look somebody in the eye and lie to them. And if they do that, let them pay $8 for their karma. So it's a culture change. It's a big culture change. But these are the tools that I need to make the culture change.
And then you'll be able to track that to see what are the categories or instances or, whatever.
Who, what, why, when.
Okay.
Yep. It's all recorded and auditable.
Okay. Great. No, thanks. I really do hope this works out. I feel like, face-to-face kindness often is more effective.
Trying.
Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Neill. Commissioner Overby, I saw your hand go up as well, so I want to be sure to give you a chance.
I have to say that I had quite a few questions written out, and Jeff, you've done a great job of addressing a huge proportion of those. So I appreciate how carefully you thought this out.
Thank you.
I do have a couple remaining. One of the comments that you explained the bulk rate product packages, which to us, but there's nothing in the proposed ordinance language that sort of explains what that is. And it might be helpful to be a little more specific about like what you said. You said it was like a 20 coupon punch card. I don't know how to be more, but I mean, my original reaction was, what is that? Is that, some sort of promotion where you're going to a business and, so it would be great if you had an explanation of that more clearly, because maybe everybody in parking knows that, but me as a citizen doesn't.
Yeah, and I guess I agree with you.
Whatever you want to put in, I would love to have you put that in. That would be something that would be, I was going to say leave that out for the moment until you could be more clear about that.
Well, I wanted it to be a cat. Chapin and I talked about this actually specifically because he said take it out, and I said no, I want it in. And I left it in. And the reason I left it in is because I wanted it to be, relatively undefined. It's a bulk rate parking product, and that could be a 5-day punch card. It could be a 2-month unlimited access card. It could be, there's a number of ways that we can take our parking product and put it into bulks, right? Like I could sell a week. I could sell the hotels week parking passes.
Well,
right. That's a bulk product.
Yeah. Well, the reason that I'm sensitive to that being too generic is that we basically gave 40 years of private parking to the marina for very little. And so to me, that definition of a bulk rate parking product I don't want to have that happen again, where we've basically given away a huge, public resource to a private marina. So that's why I wanted more specifics, and you gave very specifics that make it very clear that you're not talking about giving away,
So that's
parking spots that are, should be for the public to the private purpose.
Right.
That's why I'm getting at that. So that would be the suggestion. I would love to have you have a little more specificity than something that could be really so open that you could give away the whole parking lot next to, Mr. Mike's and say, well, that's a bulk product.
Right. No, and we can't.
I know.
The only person that can do that is the Public Works Commission, and because that's the way that it was written. Bulk rate parking products, we can make the product subject to approval of the Public Works Commission. So we can't do a bulk rate product on a pilot. And this is why Chapin said, why don't you just take it out? Because if you could do a bulk rate as a pilot, and I said, well, I want to lay it right out there that we want to do bulk rate products, and it's an idea. And I don't want to be too specific because it could be anything.
But with the specifics of what you mean is in the nature of a 20 punch card parking thing, not something that somebody could think of as something else. And and I understand why is it in there, because if it's subject to the approval of the Public Works Commission, one of the concerns that I have is that if you do a lot of work to work up all the marketing and design and figuring it out, and then come to the Public Works Commission after a lot of work, and then we're like, wait a minute, there's some real input. My thought is that why are you not just if it's going to be having to come to the Public Works, you should come while there's actually some Public Works Commission input that would be useful to the development of the bulk product, rather than you've worked it all out and you come and then we're just like, we get our 4 days to review it and rubber stamp it. That's where I'm getting at with that. So,
of course, I think that would be bad planning.
Clarify it in a real simple way would make it really easy for people to know, and it would make it so that it's not so much of a and we'd all know that, yes, we've already agreed generically that this is a great idea, and we'll get the details on it in the future to review.
Yeah, no, I don't want to perseverate on it. I can specify, but my concern is that I'm working with a set of ordinances right now that is so specific that it hurts my customers, and that's why I prefer to have a more broad language. But the language is conditioned on Public Works Commission approval. So if we spend 6 months putting together a program and then come to you and give you 4 days to review it and you turn it down, well, bad on us. Like, that's just bad planning. Like, we should know. Like, if this is controversial, we should know about it and we should come to you early.
Well, it would help you to get a better product if you
absolutely
the Public Works Commission, which is what part of the purpose of the Public Works Commission is. Not to just get the product that you've worked out, hard work, and then we just sort of rubber stamp it because we don't really have time to give you good input. In fact, it's sort of too late. So that was rough. You are being specific, like the lost ticket rate. You want to be specific in some ways.
That's in some ways.
Yes. So anyway, that was one thing, and the second, one other thing is sort of on a different note is the $20 parking for employees. I know for city employees,
yes.
I know there was text in the transportation demand plan about trying to encourage employees to not drive, and this is not exactly going in that direction if it's just always giving the city employees easy parking and cheap parking. So I just wanted to make a note of that.
So just to be clear, it's $20 for city employees to park, paid for by the department.
Right.
And parking is required to be provided by union agreements. So this is a busy area of discussion right now.
Okay, so I brought it to your attention, and it sounds like it's for union purposes. You cannot. You're obligated to provide the parking, and you just want to keep it low cost to the department since they already are going to be providing it anyway. I just want
to acknowledge that we do it. Right now, the ordinance doesn't acknowledge it.
Yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge that we did have a discussion about transportation and management and trying to encourage people not to drive and giving a bus pass instead of parking. But it sounds like that's not an option with the current contracts for city employees. So that answers that. Let me see if I can. Quite a few. Yeah, one of my questions that was about how you provide the documentation for the ambassadors to document what the reasons were and who they gave the free pass parking for, so that it doesn't just become chronic with somebody giving parking to their friends, for example.
Right. That's all recorded by the system.
Let's see here. I think that you had addressed all of my other questions. Oh, the one thing that I did want, your chart on that page about the proposed things, you got some blank sections. And I was just trying to fill those in myself. So if you've got
right here,
the blank ones. So the College Street one, that third one down, is that meaning that that's $3?
There is right here.
Right.
Yes. Right. There is no specific charge for 2.5 hours. Once you cross the 2-hour threshold, you're paying $3.
Okay, so I couldn't figure out that 50% thing and the percent change, 50%.
Well, it's because they're paying $3, and it used to be they only paid $2. At this rate, at 2.5 hours, if somebody leaves at 2.5 hours today, they're paying $2. If they leave at 2.5 hours on July 1st, they're going to pay $3.
Right. So there would be a 3 where your little hand is right now.
There could be a 3 there. Yes.
That's where I was. Okay. So, and then the gap below that one
would be $4.
Would be $4.
That would be $4. Yes.
Okay. So that was what, and I was just trying to figure, I was confused.
Yep.
So that I think answers my question.
These are dollars, by the way. Clearly, I forgot to put
I know. I realized that. What are we seeing? Because you had dollars in the other ones, but I figured that out. I just wasn't sure if I was calculating the numbers on it.
I just saw that now.
Another question I had that came up in your discussion about the new validation of employee parking, the free parking for employees downtown restaurant. You said they can do that online. Is there how do you audit that? Is that something that's by the business? And is there any patients on that? I mean, how is that anticipated to work? Like if you had, 300 restaurant employees that wanted to get free parking, is that
so? So it's online software called FlexVal, and what happens is it's happening right now. Back in February we did this before. We did it using Brookfield leftover holiday Brookfield money. In February we set up free parking for employees, and we got about 30 companies to sign up to FlexVal, and so each company goes on and they print out, they've got 10 employees, they print out 10 validations, and then that employee can use that validation an unlimited amount of times. But I know that validation came from the farmhouse, or that validation came from Echo, right? So if I see a validation used 7 days a week, I can audit that also. And I can go back to Echo and I can say, look, you really have this person working 7 days a week. They're coming in at 8 a.m. and they're leaving at 10 p.m. They're parking. What's going on? You're abusing my system. So anytime we do any of these validation things, it's going to have to be a little bit of a trust with our customer, but it's trust but verify.
So there isn't any particular estimate of how many people are going to be actually employees that are going to be using that free parking through their employer.
I can't.
Are you expecting a certain amount, and you're budgeting for that free parking?
I have about $48,000, and when we did this in February, I just figured out today we spent $1,354. We did it for a little over 4 weeks.
Okay,
so
it's not a big hit.
Our budget's not being hit. This is all leftover holiday money from Brookfield from Christmas time.
You could sort of consider it a goodwill investment in the business community to support their employees.
Well, and that's what I think that was Brookfield's intention anyway, right? I mean, so and we're using it to help with the COVID recovery, and so it's all good. They like this program.
Good. All right. That answers, I think, the questions. The other ones you answered in your wonderful presentation in advance. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Overby. Other commissioners with questions? And again, I'm going to try to scan through just to see if I see hands flailing away. Don't see any. Just one kind of brief questions for me, Jeff. Really excellent work across the board here. Really glad for your thoroughness. And when you said we formerly did not have a code to allow for snow parking in the garages, it's sort of one of those face slaps. And you're just thinking, really? So I'm glad you are there to fill in these gaps. It's so essential. We've got to have them. So really good work. My one question was on, it's under number 3 for policy update, delegate authority to set temporary rates to the Director of Department of Public Works for special events and promotions. Just wanted to inquire a little bit about that. Is there an end date for that, like you have for the other program we have about temp parking?
Wait, which number is it?
Number one. Yeah, sorry about that.
For periods up to 1 month.
But
2 weeks notice.
But you're saying like the promotion could last for a month, right? You're not just saying you're seeking this authority for 1 month from the date.
Right. Yeah. Special event or promotion for a period up to a month. So they do. So let's say we were going to have Oktoberfest in Burlington, and we want to do 50% parking for Oktoberfest. We could notify the Public Works Commission that we're teaming with, Echo and Cedo and whoever, and we want to do this parking. We're going to do this parking promotion for a month and see how it runs. And then it will stop.
When I ask end date, though, you don't have this authority would be granted in perpetuity.
Oh, yes. I mean, we would have, we would do Oktoberfest promotion this year. We do an Easter promotion next year. We do it, yeah. So it's the authority to do a pilot program similar to the pilot authority that we have on the meters. We have the similar meter authority.
Okay. And you've already answered my other, which was just to ask for a couple of examples, and you've already given a couple.
Eastern Oktoberfest, that's when people love to park.
I know when it comes to Easter, I'm always looking for a parking space. All right, thank you.
Drive though.
Thank you very much. All right, seeing as we had no other questions, we go to our public comment period for this piece. So I'll check in with our friend, Mr. Goulding, who may be able to alert us to anyone wishing to make a comment.
Thanks, Chairman. There was somebody signed up with a hand raised. They have since dropped out of the meeting, so they're no longer here, and there's nobody signed up in the inbox. So nobody.
Okay. All right. Well, sorry we went a little long on that to miss that public comment. So we will bring it back to the commission then. We are requested to vote on this particular matter here. I'd love to there were no questions, so anyone interested in making a motion on this one? Commissioner Overby, yeah.
Can I ask, based on the comment that you made on item number 1, I looked at it a little more closely, and I'm wondering if it, the thing about 2 weeks notice to members of the Public Works Commission doesn't really do anything for us to be able to contribute anything to that promotional rate or anything. Is it possible that could be, instead of 2 weeks notice to the members of the Public Works Commission, like in advance at a meeting where there's actually some effective opportunity for the commission to provide input into that temporary promotional rate?
So Commissioner Overby, do you think you'd be looking at, if you look at item number 2, for example, the last piece of that is subject to approval of the Public Works Commission. Are you looking more for something like that or something different?
Those are sort of mutually contradictory. If we're delegating the authority to set the rates for these special events and promotions, that's pretty much giving it away, as you noted, forever. But the question in my mind is, it would seem like we're not really doing what's in number 2, subject to the approval. And I think that's not what they want. I think they want to be able to come up with a great promotional idea, negotiate it, work it out, and then just let us know as a commission. And I feel like, again, this is by, you know, I had some concerns about that at first, and I thought, well, you know, I see where this is going. But to be really useful, the Public Works Commission is there to help improve the quality of these decisions. And so delegating is sort of taking that, you know, removing that opportunity. And I think maybe if that wasn't saying with two, I mean, if we're okay with letting us delegating it, it may be that it would be fine that we just would like to be in a position to contribute to it being a better plan or a better promotion or some ideas that would improve it, rather than just being told that it's in the works 2 weeks ahead of time. I don't think the 2 week notice is going to do anything for us to be of any value. So that's what I'm thinking. Can it be worded in a way where it's not necessarily subject to the approval of the Public Works Commission, which, you know, may not be necessary, but I feel like subject to the input of the Public Works Commission will only make the whole thing work better, and that's what we're here to do.
So here's our thinking on that, is that we do not want to, the point is to not avoid or circumvent the Public Works Commission. The point is to have flexibility to work with our customers that sometimes show up at the last minute. So for example, there's a car show that comes to the Lakeview garage, and it's quasi, you know, legit, because they basically, you know, they just come in and they park their old cars in the garage, and then they walk around and look at their old cars. So often they will call me like 5 to 7 days ahead, and just to say, hey, you know, we're going to come and do this. Are you guys going to freak out? And we say, well, no, just do it on the roof, because there's nobody there anyway. And you're not really doing anything illegal, but, you know, be careful, you know, because otherwise it might look like you're, you know, having a big, you know, party or something. So for those, it's for those type of people that we can say, hey, look, let's formalize this a little bit. We can give you these discounts. We can print you out special validation coupons with your logo on it. We can make it a little bit more sophisticated and a little more pro. And we can call that a pilot program. And then we can test it out. And then we can say, hey, that worked really well. And then we can come to you and create a formal.
Well, my headphones just died. We can
Still hear you.
Okay, we can create a formal bulk rate product that then we can use to sell to other people. So we're just looking for a little flexibility. The point is that it's a month. We got a month to test out an idea, and if it works or doesn't work, we don't want to bother you with some sort of marginal idea. If we can test it and then bring it to you as a fully baked idea that we have some idea that will work, I think that would be better. And then we can get your input on how to make it better or a different perspective or whatever. But then at least we're coming to you with something we've tried, and it's not just an idea. That's the point. And it's modeled after the same language that we have on the meters for the same reason.
Well, if you called that in there, if you just said delegate authority to run a pilot project for special events or promotions for a period up to 1 month, you know, to be, you know, exactly what you just said, which is not what this says. And I think that's what Tiki pointed out, that.
What do you think, Commissioner Overby? You think
I'm
something more like a 1 year pilot?
Well,
which
no,
we've done in the past.
Okay.
Okay.
The way it was worded, I get it. I thought you want to be able to just try something. I wasn't seeing it as a pilot thing at all.
Okay.
I thought it was, you want to be able to set
That's what he's pitching. Sure.
Right. I said, you know, that anytime you want to negotiate something, you just come up with some temporary special event thing for up to a month, and then we get an email that you're doing it. And that to me is not providing, we're not giving you, it's not a pilot. That's not the same thing as what you just said.
So I hear what you're saying. You're saying that the commission can be a value to whether it be promotions or bulk rates or really anything we touch. I mean, including today, I wanted information, right? We can only help. So that relationship is the piece, but I don't know that we can codify value, right? Because that's perceived rather than.
No, the timing is what I'm getting at. The fact that it says just giving 2 weeks notice is really not.
So you want to strike that language?
No, I would just say I know you proposed that we put after that, subject to approval of the Public Works Commission. I'm
I
not.
was just trying to figure out where you were at.
Yeah, I am saying that for those special events, just like the way you've said it, but it's not a matter of, if you put in there that it's a pilot, you know,
What do you want?
With
We know what you don't want. What would you like to see?
Well, I was looking at if it's for, you know, the end part of it, instead of saying after providing the Public Works Commission 2 weeks notice, just, you know, providing the Public Works Commission information at their next meeting, I suppose, because it doesn't really, again, if there's no interest in receiving any input from the Public Works Commission on any of the special events or promotions for up to a month, because they'll all be worked out separately by staff, and then it's fine, you're just going to tell people later. This doesn't really look like a pilot. So
so this sort of, in my view, this lands in the space of good faith. I mean, if we're coming to you every 2 weeks with a new thing that says, hey, we're doing this, hey, we're doing that, hey, we're doing this, hey, we're doing that, that's not okay.
Well, that might be fine. I'm not.
Well, but you would have, the Public Works Commission would have the right to say, step in and say.
And
hey,
Jeff, that's what I like about this, is that you give a temperature gauge in here so that we can take that temperature. Because if this is, you know, happening month over month over month, and it's just all it is promotions, then yeah, I as a commission member would be concerned about that we're boxing out other people from using that garage. So we would want to call that in. So maybe to Commissioner Overby's point, the 2 weeks notice thing may or may not be helpful. She's thinking that perhaps we add language that says, and also at the subsequent Public Works Commission meeting. Would something like that work? Oh, sorry.
My only problem with that is the speed issue, because there are times when we need the flexibility to respond in a week or two.
We're not asking for authority, right? We would be granting you the authority. We're just asking for A, 2 weeks notice prior to the promotion, B, notification also at the next Public Works meeting.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
That's my thinking. But Commissioner Overby, would that speak to what you're talking about?
Well, I think that the 2 weeks notice doesn't do anything.
I find value in it.
Pardon?
I find value in it.
After the fact that's the plan, or
I would like 2 weeks notice. I mean,
in advance.
I don't know. Do I have to justify it? I mean, I just like that language. But I can't understand what you're asking here then.
Yeah. Well,
I can't ask.
I was getting at is that if there's any value in the Public Works Commission contributing to making special events and promotions work better, they have to be discussed at a Public Works Commission meeting. And we're basically saying we don't really need that in this case. So we're just saying we just want to know about it later. And that's what I'm concerned about, is that what we're saying forever after that. We don't really care if there's going to be special promotions done for parking for up to a month. We just want to know after the fact. And is that okay? That's what I'm getting at. And that's what we're voting on.
Right.
And what difference did it make if I find afterwards, I said, well, why didn't you try it this way? Why didn't you, if we came up with some great, suggestions that would have made that special event promotion better, and it's already too late because we just got notice of it. That's what I'm getting at. Are we intending to help with this promotions and events, or are we just going to sit back and just want to know about it? This is a sit back.
I don't think we're supposed to be micromanaging, right? I mean, pardon? I do think that there's a balance in terms of how much okay, I'll leave it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to, hold this up. I'm just, I get it from what we were suggesting, that there isn't a lot of value in just being told after the fact. If there's not, at that point, it's too late to provide any input of improving the promotion or the special event. And that's fine. We can just leave it at that. If everybody's comfortable with that. That's the way it is.
I mean, we would entertain any sort of language changes that you might propose if you have something in mind that you wish to pitch.
Well, my thought was to put in the Public Works Department may set up pilot projects for special event promotions, parking promotions. So the wording would be, Director of Public Works may set up temporary pilot projects for special event promotion parking for up to 1 month.
How would that differ from the language that's here?
Because a pilot is exactly what Jeff was saying. If they're not saying, they're just saying they're trying it out. Does it work or not? And then if it does work, then it would be brought to the commission to say, we really like these kinds of bulk package kind of deals. We want to have it as part of our normal procedure. And that's the point where we'd actually be asked later. So if it's labeled a pilot, it's not a permanent thing versus. So
do we not have an end? Do you have an end date to propose then for a
well,
pilot?
They know the term for a pilot. So I mean, I don't think it needs an end date. If we're
pilots in its very nature denote that we have an end date, that will end at some point, and we either take the authority back or it continues.
Well,
does it not?
Yeah, I feel like they're asking for being able to have pilot projects for trying things out with different special event promotions. And I can imagine lots of different ways of doing that. I actually have background working with ticketing in the resort community. So that was part of one of my jobs. So there's a lot of things you can do. So I could.
Right. So you're pitching a value. I'm really confused right now as far as I really want to help, but I'm not sure if you're proposing language. I understand you may bring an additional value, but I think at this point we just need language proposed.
Yeah, well, let me get this. So part of it was hiding here. So the proposed language would be for special events. The director of Department of Public Works may set temporary rates for pilot. It's still covered up here. Pilot may set temporary rates for pilot projects for special parking promotions for periods up to 1 month after providing Public Works Commission 2 weeks notice. And in fact, that sort of is problematic if they want to jump on it in a week, but that's
okay. So you would add the word pilot effectively.
Try to say that these are actually temporary rates, to establish pilot projects for parking promotions. Does that make sense, Jeff? I'm trying to figure out what you said versus what it says here.
Well, to my mind, pilot project equals set temporary rates for special events or promotions. That's in my mind. They're the same. They're the same thing.
Even though it's not setting it up as a model for another standard.
Everything we do could be a model, right? We test one thing now, we test another thing another time, and one thing works, one thing everything's a model for something to do in the future.
Well, if it seems like nobody else has a concern about that, then I'm not going to continue to perseverate about it. But I was fine with you trying things out. I just feel like the commission is going to be unable to provide any useful input if, in fact, they just get 2 weeks notice and it's already been done. That's my comment, and I guess I'll leave it at that.
Maybe I'm just thinking out loud here. I guess the only thing maybe you're worried about, Solveig, is that if this was done sort of repeatedly, like what prevents them from just repeatedly doing the same thing month after month after month versus it being a 1 month thing and then being assessed on the merits? Is that your concern? I mean, I think otherwise adding pilot doesn't change, I think, what they're allowed to do.
Yeah, no, I wasn't really worried about them doing it month after month after month. I was more concerned about continuing to have the Public Works Commission have a valued role in improving the special event promotions, parking promotions. And in fact, this removes any opportunity for the Public Works Commission to be contributing anything useful to the design of a special event promotion, because it'll already be done by the time we get our notice of it. So that's all I was getting at, and it sounds like it's not a problem for most people. I'm not thinking it's going to be some sort of end run or something where
I wonder, should we ask them to sort of document in sort of a standard form their thinking for that event at the following, it comes out in the 2 week notice, but we get a chance to discuss it at the next Public Works Commission meeting.
I think that's where I'm getting at, that it would be, and you'll be training in some ways. You train people. If you can just get a thing in 5 minutes, the day before, you train people to just cut the corners. If you really want more time to be able to prepare for police coverage or whatever you need, you know, it just seems like, you know, you'd want to do it in a little bit more deliberate way and have some kind of contribution from the Public Works Commission instead of just do it because you got to do it in a rush and we don't participate except later afterwards and go, oh, gee, why didn't you try that or this or that? That's all my comment. I don't really want to beat it to, you know, a dead horse here. So if everybody's happy with this language, let's just leave it that way. I made my point, and maybe it wasn't clear, but I tried.
I appreciate the thoughts. Thank you very much. Other commissioner comments or questions on this piece here before we go to public comment? All right, flipping through, seeing none, we will go to public comment. Mr. Goulding, once again, checking in with you to see how we're looking on that front.
At this time, there is nobody signed up for public comment.
Okay, great. Thank you for checking that. Okay, so once again, we are requested for action on this piece and would like to check to see if anyone is interested in a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept staff's proposal.
Thank you, Commissioner Barr. Do we have a second?
I second that motion.
Oh, sorry.
Commissioner O'Neill, I think you get the edge. Sorry, Commissioner Bose.
Sarah Chabot. So one little wriggly detail, Solveig caught a typo. So what we're looking at now is the document that was in the packet.
Yeah.
This 3 is actually a 2. And that 4 is actually a 3. There was just, the numbering was a typo. So maybe if you could just include in your motion as, because you're not actually approving this document that's in your packet, you're approving the typo fix.
Typos and grammatical errors, we will say are fair game to address. Sure thing.
Just one, full disclosure. Thank you for catching that.
Sure. Thank you, Jeff. We had a motion from Commissioner Barr, second from Commissioner O'Neill. I would like to ask Commissioner Barr if you'd be open to a friendly amendment, which would be for that one piece that we were discussing. On the screen share, it's listed as 3, but it should be 2. That at the very end, it just gets appended with and brought to the next Public Works Commission meeting.
Yes. I was trying to read to see whether or not it already said that, because I do see the words after providing the Public Works 2 weeks notice, but now what we're saying is that it would be 2 weeks after the fact, potentially.
Well, it would be basically 2 occasions, right? The 2-week notice and then at the next meeting, depending on, you know, the timing of it.
I'm good with that if my seconder is good with that.
Seconder agrees with your amended motion.
All right.
Thank you. Director Spencer, I just want to do a formality check. Does my friendly amendment need a second in itself?
If the maker and the seconder are in alignment, it can proceed.
Okay, great. Thank you. Nice to have those formalities. Thank you for entertaining that. So just to be clear, putting it out there, the motion on the table is the staff language as is, with the addition of item 3 as we see on the screen share. And just basically at the very end of that whole clause just adds and at the next Public Works Commission meeting. So 2 points of communication. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, looking around, seeing none, we will go to a vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. All opposed? Okay, just scanning through, and it looks like we have unanimous passage on this. Very good. So, Jeff, thank you for all your work on this. Yeah. Super appreciated. Clearly, you put a lot of thought in this, and it's long overdue. So, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. See you later.
Very welcome. That will close item number 7. And we go to item number 8 now, which is consolidated collection and fiscal year 2021 solid waste generation tax updates. And Commission is requested to vote on this actor.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Hi there.
Welcome. Again. It's been a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're here to talk solid waste generation tax and give you an update on the consolidated collection study. So we will start with the solid waste generation tax. Give you a little background on that. The city currently charges its haulers $4.20 per residential unit to pick up trash within the city of Burlington. And those monies collected pays for the tipping fees where we dispose of the recycling. Now, back in March, Chittenden Solid Waste District raised the tipping fees at the MRF as a result of stale commodity market from $65 a ton to $80 a ton. And that increase, I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. Sorry about that, I apologize. So that increase to the $4.20 would be a 29-cent increase per residential unit to cover the cost of that increase to the tipping fee. And as well as the increase in cost of the tipping fees, we also have a need to replace one of our 4 recycling trucks that makes up our fleet. And that increase of 35 cents in the tax rate would cover the lease payment on that truck. So we can discuss the 29-cent increase first. As I discussed with the tipping fees, those since 2019 have increased $25 or will have increased $25 with this upcoming fee. Back as early as 2013, recycling commodities pretty much covered the cost of operating the MRF. So there were no tipping fees charged. Then incrementally over the years, they've risen to the cost they are at now of $80 a ton. So that being said, you know, the 29 cents per RDU generated would relate to about $43,200 annually to cover the cost of that increase. And that increase would relate to a $7.68 increase per residential dwelling unit annually from $50.40 to $58.08 annually. The recycling truck, we feel that this truck we have now that is to be replaced is well beyond its life. It is a truck that is 10 years old. It's scheduled to be replaced this year. It was purchased as a diesel powered truck that we had an aftermarket conversion done to convert it to CNG, which at the time, it was a good option. We soon started running into problems with that vehicle, constant breakdowns. And then the manufacturer and company that did the aftermarket installation went out of business. And we've had a very hard time finding parts that relate to that aftermarket installation. And just as recently, we've had engine problems, not related to that conversion, but just with the age of the vehicle. We had to do a total engine rebuild to it, put new camshaft in it, and it is still out of service right now. We do have 3 other trucks, but we also have 3 routes. So with this truck down, it's very concerning because if we have another truck go down, then we're working double time to pick up the slack for the extra route that's out there. The cost of a new diesel powered recycling truck is a little over almost $237,000. The cost of a new CNG powered truck is $347,110. You know, in fleet maintenance, we look into green options, viable options for electric or hybrid powered. At this time, they do not make an electric version for a recycling truck. I do believe they make like a smaller garbage truck rear load version, but nothing in the capacity that we use for a vehicle. So with that 35-cent increase, as I said, to the solid waste generation tax, it would cover the annual lease payment of the new recycling truck. You know, we thought we could delay it maybe with the upcoming consolidated collection, but that is in the works. We are planning our, as you'll find out, our public engagement and presentations to the TUC and City Council. And, you know, if all goes well and is approved and go forward, it's still, you know, 9 months to a year out before implementation with, you know, RFPs and billing options and everything else that goes along with it.
So Lee, thank you. I think the key piece here is that we wanted the commission to be informed about this recommended tax increase in the solid waste generation tax before the council considers approval of the FY21 budget this June 29th. And so the commission does not have a required action, though the commission could take an action to recommend this tax increase to the council should you want to, after you ask us questions. It is your option. We just, in the full nature of transparency with everything going on with conversations around police and COVID and the economic downturn, we wanted to provide some extra transparency around this unfortunate but necessary tax increase during this time.
Thank you both. At this point, we will bring it in-house to the commissioners to see what questions we all may have. So fellow commissioners, questions, comments for either Lee or Director Spencer? All right. Oh,
It's Peggy.
O'Neill, please.
Hi.
Yeah.
So I guess I just want to ask what's going to happen with your CNG dispenser if you're not going to be using CNG. I know you also sell it to the public, but is this the end of any CNG heavy duty vehicle for DPW?
No, we currently have a CNG recycling truck and a diesel truck.
But if you're getting rid, so you have one other one?
Correct.
Okay. And then, so.
Oh, I'm sorry, we have two other ones and one diesel.
Okay.
This is a conversion that we're.
Right. No, I know about the conversion one, and I understand certainly from conversations with Claude that it had been problematic for quite some time. And looking how much money the city has dumped into that, it's time to cut your losses. But looking at, then replacing it with a diesel engine, I guess I would love to hear how, how this fits into kind of the net zero energy plan for Burlington. And I know, believe me, I know that there are not a lot of heavy duty options in alternative fuels that are at the same price point as a diesel truck. But would you consider purchasing a B20 diesel for a biodiesel for part of the year to at least help mitigate some of the emissions? I mean, I know you guys have B5, I think, down on Pine Street, if I'm not mistaken, but a B20 would actually have some increased kind of emissions effects.
We're actually bringing both options of vehicles between the CNG and the diesel proposal for replacement as our options, and we plan to present that to the administration and bring it to the TUC committee before bringing it to City Council.
Okay.
For their recommendations.
Okay.
Yeah. To be clear, all fleet right now, the council has made it very clear that we need to demonstrate that there is no viable option for every vehicle we purchase, that there is no alt fuels option that makes economic sense. And that includes factoring in the price of carbon at about $100 a ton. So we're doing those analyses. We're bringing it to council subcommittees and partnering with BED to see what kind of rebates and prebates they can give us. And then we bring that annually to the council. So I feel like we're doing a pretty good job exploring all options. Claude and the equipment maintenance team and Dave Hammond are doing a solid job doing an industry review of what's out there. But as you know, there aren't a lot of options in the heavy duty commercial realm at this time.
Right, and certainly not at a price point that would be palatable right now. So, okay, thanks. I appreciate that, Chapin and Lee. Thanks.
No problem.
Commissioner Overby, please.
As I read this, there's actually going to be a leasing of the truck, not a purchase. Am I reading that correctly? And I couldn't tell if it was a diesel or a CNG, but we're not talking about buying one right now. We're just talking about leasing while we're deciding what's going to go on with the consolidated collection plan. Am I understanding that correctly?
The term of the lease would, go ahead, Chapin.
Sure. Most of our leases are lease to own. And this would allow us extra time to make a decision on the consolidated collection decision about whether we're going to stay in the recycling business or not.
So the lease, the amount, it said that the annual, this increase is going to cover the annual lease cost. Is that for a leasing of the diesel version or the CNG version?
It will cover either version.
Okay. So right now, so either way, I understand, lease to own, and we don't know yet whether it's going to be a CNG or a,
Right. The intent of this was mostly to just inform you about the tax increase and make sure you're comfortable with that. It is a side benefit while we're here to reassure the commission that we are looking at alt fuels with every vehicle replacement.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Overby. Other commissioners? Okay, seeing none at this time, we can go to public comment. Mr. Goulding, anything in the queue?
There is no one signed up for public comment.
Okay, that makes it short. All right, comes back to the commission. As a reminder, commission, we are not obligated to move on this. It is, it's an option, I suppose, to carry this language, but we do not have authority over this particular matter. So I will defer to my fellow commissioners on how to proceed. Lee, please.
I just have one question just to clarify on my ordinances, because this tax is in the ordinance. Is that governed by the Public Works Commission? And will the wording need to be changed in that ordinance?
Right. Lee, this is in a section of ordinance that is adjusted by the City Council, not the Public Works Commission.
Sorry.
No problem. It's complicated.
It's actually a fair question. Yeah, we have the same questions, Lee, almost every month. So yeah, it's perfectly fair.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Fellow commissioners, let me just take a temperature check. Do you wish to pass along some approval language here, or are you more comfortable abstaining for such a, Commissioner Barr, please?
Yeah, so I running a fleet myself and knowing what it's like when there's something that needs to be replaced, all the support that we can give them, I think would be very helpful. So at the very least, a vote to recommend that we agree or approve of their request, I think might help when they go to the council and to the TUC and to the other places. So I'm just saying that out. I can make the motion, but I'm throwing that out first so that we can have a conversation if we need to.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's nice to sometimes just get a heads up on what direction we're headed. You know, I'm actually gonna pick on people here just to elicit some responses. Commissioner Hogan, pick on you for a moment. Your thoughts on this? You know, would you echo Commissioner Barr, or what would your sentiment be on this matter?
Yeah, I would be happy to lend a statement of support in favor of staff's recommendation here.
Yeah. Okay. Commissioner Bose, I'm seeing some head nodding, so perhaps you're headed in the same direction, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that if there is a strong sort of sense of support from the commission, I think that would go some way towards providing some momentum. So I would also be, if you're making a motion, I would second it. So just to get ahead of Peggy in case she was going to second it.
Let me hold off on my motion then.
All right, great. Well, I just wanted a flavor of where people stood. Commissioner O'Neill, you're just a temperature check real quick for you.
No, I support this. I think these kind of investments are really important, and knowing a little bit of the history of the CNG vehicle they're talking about, they are in a desperate state. So yes, support.
Yeah, thank you. And it took me a moment to think CNG, and then I got
compressed natural gas.
Yeah,
sorry, right? We should not use these acronyms.
My mind is slow.
EVM too, so I don't want them to get rid of the fueling station.
The pump, I know.
Commissioner Overby, just real quick temperature check here.
I think it's good that we make a support for this as well. My only question is, if we do end up with some of the proposals that are in the consolidated collection, they would transfer the responsibility for the consolidated collection probably to private, maybe private haulage. So the question would be a lease to own arrangement. The question is, what happens to the vehicle if we in 3 years are not going to be using it for municipal purposes? How's that going to work?
Yep, thank you, Commissioner Overby. We'd either end the lease or if we had owned the vehicle fully by that point, that we would liquidate our remaining fleet once we got out of the business.
Okay. So we wouldn't lose money by having gone through this process and bought something. I think we should say, provide support as well, like the others have proposed. We really should add our support for this because it does have to get done, and it's going to cost money to get a nice replacement vehicle. So while we're still in the business, we should have something that's reliable.
Yeah, Commissioner Overby, just for a heads up, I had the same question, so I'm glad you asked it. Thank you. Commissioner Gilman, I was doing temperature checks on this whole thing. How you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in support. I don't know, historically, if we sort of waffle between providing an official vote of support and just saying, yeah, we support it and don't have any questions. So I'm fine either way. Whatever everyone else wants to. I don't feel strongly either way.
Okay, fair enough. All right, I think we have a pretty good idea here. Commissioner Barr, I might defer to you.
Yeah, I wanted to make a motion to make it official to support staff's recommendation.
And this would be the recommendation on the tax piece in particular. Would that be about right? Okay.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
I'll second.
Second, Commissioner Bose. Thank you, sir. Any discussion on that motion?
Is there any way we could make sure that we suggest that they choose the vehicle that's going to have the best resale value in 3 or 4 years?
As the motion maker, I don't disagree with your amendment, but I would be more inclined to say that it is the most environmentally friendly and cost efficient vehicle too. So I mean, that hopefully in itself would have some resale value. But
right. Well, that would go together, whichever and we don't have electric, so it's going to be probably the CNG.
But if we do resale value, that implies ownership. Whereas a lease has terms, so resale value would then be a moot point.
And the vehicle may end up being at the end of the lease, just letting it go rather than owning it and selling it. So.
Right. Well, a diesel is not going to be as attractive probably in the future when we're all driving Tesla battery operated vehicles.
Right.
Are we getting Teslas?
350,000 now, and worth whatever.
Nikola vehicles, it's even better than
250,000 now, and worth goes to the dump in 3 years.
Yeah, but diesel's not going to go away for a number of years, certainly in the heavy duty sector. And believe me, I'm the last person who would be advocating for diesel, right, Jim?
Right. Well, we could recycle the recycle truck, right? So yeah.
All right.
Okay. All right. So we're staying, the motion so far stays as is, as proposed by Commissioner Barr. Okay. Any further discussion on that motion? Okay. Seeing none, we will vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. There it is. It passes along.
Great. Thank you for your support. Appreciate
Absolutely. Thanks for your
Thank
work on this. Really appreciate it.
Great. For this second item, given the hour, we did include in the packet, it looks like it starts on page 33 as part of the memo, the next steps in the consolidated collection study, most notably the public engagement plan that's lined up. We do have Nancy Plunkett here from CSWD here to answer any particular questions, in addition to Lee Perry, who's been our point of contact on the study. I don't know, Lee, if you have just a few bullets to expedite this, and then happy to answer questions for the commission. There's no action on this really requested tonight. We just wanted to inform you of the upcoming public process.
I do want to point out that under the key report findings, I mislabeled that it was key objectives of the RFP. I do have some slides I can show. Quickly, there's not many that highlight those points of the objectives, if you're interested in seeing them.
Sure.
Okay, let me. Okay. Oh, sorry about this. Let me get to sharing the screen. Okay.
We see it.
Okay.
Get it.
Let me just make sure it's going to. Okay. I'm sorry. It is not doing what I want. I am terribly sorry about this. I had it all set up.
Quite all right. I feel bad that you put in time to this. It would have been nice to see. Do you just need another moment, or is all hope lost there, Lee?
It's looking pretty lost right this minute because I can't even get my cursor up on the other screen. I'm sorry.
I laugh and commiserate. That's all right. We've all been there. Oh, I see a new slide.
Okay. No, I'm sorry about that.
Quite all right. Quite all right. Let me ask you a question, just to, that I know is related to this. So we've explored this. I can remember some years ago. I can't remember exactly when. And I see now, as this is being pitched, I see a lot of benefits to the city from a perspective of being able to kind of remove city resources and get it into really private hands. And of course, controversy over choice, I suppose, in haulers. Question for you, because I've seen haulers indicate that, feeling like they're singled out. Why not UPS trucks? Why not FedEx trucks? Why are the garbage trucks being considered here for this kind of consolidated collection when they're just one piece of a larger pie?
That is a good question, and I believe it's based on, as many routes that these private haulers have in the city and how many customers, that rather than, once or twice a week, almost every day they're in a portion of the city. There's no structure to their routes, where with a consolidated collection method, the routes would be distributed, whether it's 3 or 4 routes throughout the city, you would have one hauler picking up that one route one day. I get why not the UPS and FedEx and all that, but I think we could control the haulers more within the city, within, with the routes, and maybe Nancy has
Yeah,
a
I
little
can
something she
add
can add.
something to that. Good evening.
Hi, welcome.
Thanks. One of the things is that it's a difference between a UPS truck or something is that under federal and state laws, municipalities are responsible for managing the solid waste that their businesses and residents generate. We have that legal obligation. We can hire the private sector to manage it, or we can manage it ourselves, but we are ultimately responsible for it as municipalities. That's the difference in my mind.
Yeah, thank you for that. That is helpful. And this type of proposal were to work out, consolidated collection, would result in savings to the city, yeah?
Yes.
That is correct.
That was in Lee's presentation.
Yeah, it's nice to sometimes restate these. And probably a lot of the benefit is a bit fuzzy to really quantify at this point, right? But do we have dollar numbers around what those savings would be at this point, or is it just more, I don't know, environmental, or how do you view that?
I think it's a combination of both. They have a range of savings, the environmental impacts, cost of carbon. You're reducing a fleet of 3 to 2 trucks. So you're reducing that carbon impact. You're reducing the impact to the infrastructure, our roads, not to mention safety. There's a lot of schools in the Burlington area. They need their rubbish, removed and recycling and all that. So there are a lot of benefits, and it will, it'll benefit. We won't have to buy a recycling truck every 10 years either.
Lee, do you have access to your slides? Because there's one slide that provides a dollar amount range of overall savings. I mean, savings to residents and to the city.
Interesting. Director Spencer, didn't want to lose your thought there.
Fine. While Lee's looking that up, I will say here from what I'm seeing from the February report, the savings in Burlington is between 700,000 and 2.8 million.
Wow.
There are a lot of variables that go into this study at this point. How many people participate? Are organics included or not? What's the frequency of collection? But there is a substantial savings potential. In addition, with the organics requirement prohibiting organics in the landfill, if we bring in organics into this consolidated collection, we can provide that service at a much cheaper rate than if only 10 or 15% of households sign on to it. So not only are there savings, financial savings, there are significant greenhouse gas savings that are modeled in this report. That full presentation will be done at this public hearing later this month. Happy to get into that. And we can also include that presentation in next month's Public Works Commission packet.
I assume there's some calculation of, to provide service, the percentage reduction in miles traveled to provide the service by doing this or something, so that, it's, it's got to come from that, right? It's, less trucks driving once instead of, driving all the legs from the disposal location to each house and overlapping, each one is going out to a neighborhood once, right? So.
Right.
Yes.
And it's not, the haulers collecting trash and then we're coming through and collecting recycling, and, they're one-stop shop.
Good.
Right. And one-stop shop would be, in that scenario, trash, recycling, and compost then, Lee?
Food scraps.
So all 3 of those.
Which as we touched on, could be provided, bid out separately to include, small hauler participation. So maybe someone with a smaller business that probably couldn't invest in the capital to bid on all portions, they'd be able to bid on maybe just the food scrap portion.
Okay. Would that add more trucks to the road, though, if you had a number of smaller haulers going around collecting food scraps? Like, would that defeat the purpose?
Well, it would be that it would, I guess technically it would defeat the purpose. but we would have them come through on the same days.
It'd still be consolidated routes, so they would be collecting on.
Okay, so
efficient.
coordinated routes then.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
Okay. I imagine this will develop. So will we have another chance to see more on this? We got an AOK from Director Spencer.
Absolutely. This is just a heads up of the public process coming up to give you all the opportunity to be engaged. Sorry about the presentation tonight. We'll have the full presentation at the public meeting. There will be a proposed a meeting at the TUC in July, and we'll circulate the final draft and then go to the council either in August or September. So certainly lots more opportunities for public comment.
Okay, so the next touch point on this seems to be June 25th, if I'm seeing this right, at 7 p.m.
Correct.
Okay, and that'll be a Zoom meeting. Okay, great. Sorry, other commissioners, I didn't know if you had questions. Didn't mean to step on any toes. Other questions? Okay. We voted, I believe we went to public comment. I'll just once again go to you, Mr. Goulding, just to check in to see if there happens to be any comments on this one.
There is no one signed up for public comment.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you for checking. Okay, so there's no other vote for us. That was informational, that last piece, I believe. Just, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Lee. Okay. And I think we're set. Thank you for this.
Thank you. And again, I apologize for.
No worries. I will say as a side note, I raved to Director Spencer about the presentation from many years ago that I can't remember when it was. It was one of the best presentations I had seen. It was amazing. And I can't remember who did it, so it's killing me to not know that.
Nancy, did you think it was Tom?
I think so. I can't think of who else it would have been. Former executive director, general manager.
Okay, that makes sense.
Morrow.
He definitely knew his stuff.
It was Tom.
I think it was Tom.
Was it Tom? Okay. Yeah, thanks, Jim. All right, thank you again. Really appreciate that.
Yeah. Good night.
Thank
Have
you.
a good night.
Good night, Nancy.
All right, we are closing out item number 8 and moving to item number 9, which is approval of draft minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes, one from March and one from May, so last month. Commissioner comments or questions on the minutes? March, I believe, was to fill in some of the blanks on some figures, and I could see that an addendum was added. Is that about right, Director Spencer?
That is correct. At the very end of the document are the numbers that were referenced in the meeting that Commissioner Overby had rightly identified were omitted from the draft minutes you saw last month.
Yeah, okay, so that was a good catch. Let's do these separately then. When it comes to the March minutes, any changes or recommendations by commissioners to the March minutes? And if none, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Commissioner Barr moves to approve the March minutes. Do we have a second?
I second.
Commissioner O'Neill, thank you very much. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, we go to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, March minutes are passed. We go to the May minutes from last month. Any commissioner modifications to the May minutes?
I had
Commissioner Overby, please.
on item 7, it somewhat, it says that I asked questions about why they didn't want to use a roundabout for the Cambrian Rise North Avenue entrance. And I did ask questions, but I actually wanted to make sure that it was clear. I stated that I was very disappointed that there was quite a few years to plan that intersection and the roundabout. So I wanted to make it clear that I not only asked questions, but I really was not persuaded by the explanation that was given as to why there was no roundabout there, because there were quite a few studies that would have supported that happening there.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how best to add that in there, but under the second paragraph, it talks about Commissioners Hogan, Archambault, and Overby asking questions. about why a roundabout is not being advanced? And would it be possible to reflect the fact that I actually was disappointed that there were plenty of years available to plan a roundabout there, and there were studies that would have recommended that would have been a good place.
So maybe something like if we added a sentence such along the lines of Commissioner Overby expressed disappointment that a roundabout was not considered in the planning stages. Something to that effect.
There were studies that would have supported a roundabout in that location, and there were years taken to develop that project.
Okay, I see you writing frantically, Director Spencer. I want to look to you to see if maybe you have a sense of the language we might be adding.
Yes, as I understood it, we could add a sentence there after the sentence that Commissioner Overby identified that said, Commissioner Overby expressed disappointment that a roundabout was not selected at this location.
Despite the fact that there was a study that would have supported that as an appropriate use of an appropriate intersection design for the safety of pedestrians.
Give you a moment to get
despite that there was a study.
Yeah, despite the fact that there was a study done that would have supported the a roundabout in that location as a good intersection design.
All right. So
reference to that study.
All right, so Commissioner Overby expressed disappointment a roundabout was not selected despite there being a study that would have supported a roundabout in this location.
Yes. That'll work.
Okay.
And I guess the question would be is there a possibility of getting a link to that study or something to put in the minutes just so that someone that might read these can look at the study?
Yeah, the study is, but you can actually get Tony Reddington has access to it, so I can send that to you. He's been promoting roundabouts, as we all know.
Yeah.
There was significant expertise was looked at on the North Avenue corridor. So, and he recently has communicated quite a bit about how pedestrian safety is so critical and roundabouts.
We don't want to get into a broad discussion here. We want to get to that one piece about the study.
I can try to find you a link to that study. I think it's probably.
I'm not saying it necessarily needs to be in there.
I don't have it.
Okay.
I'm not saying necessarily that it needs to be in there. I was just curious because when you reference things.
I think it should be. I totally agree. And I can follow up with Engineer Baldwin about that and get that for us.
Yeah, that satisfies me.
That would be good.
Okay. All right. So we have that language modification. I want to contribute that I had one piece as well.
You want me to share the screen of the edits that you had asked for?
Do you have that readily available? Because I have it as well.
Okay. Yes. Go for it. You can take it.
Oh, this is going to be a first here. Can I do this? Screen number 2. Can you see the screen okay?
There we go.
Perfect. You'll see the strikeout language here, which was the original language was stricken. I've asked for the language that is not stricken. And it was as simple as that, just to clarify a bit of an oddity with this sentence there.
Can you zoom in a little bit, Chair Archambault, so others can see it?
Yeah, my apologies for that.
Go from double page to single.
Yep. Let's zoom. There we go. Is that better?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. And for reference, this was item, what item was this? Item number 6, making space for restaurant and retail recovery. Okay, I will unshare.
Sent that to us. We track changed it. It is on the commission website as draft track changed minutes, but we can also add in what Commissioner Overby has also added.
Yep. Okay, so those two changes are our tally at this point. Any other commissioner recommendations for changes to the May minutes? Okay, seeing none, perhaps we could have a motion.
Motion to accept the May minutes with the 2 edits, from one from
Thank you.
Mrs. Overby and one from Chair Archambault.
Thank you, Commissioner Barr. Do we have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Bose, thank you very much. We are seconded. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, we go to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the May minutes are passed. Thank you very much. I just got to get back to my agenda here. There we go. Okay, that was item 9. We're moving to item 10, Director's Report. Take it away, Director Spencer.
There's 3 pages in the packet. Happy to answer any questions.
That is efficient.
It is.
So fast that you're ahead of me. Okay, there we go. Any commissioner questions on for the director on the director's report, or we're about to enter commissioner communications. So if you had something unrelated, maybe we could save it for that. Okay, seeing none, we can close the item number 10 and move to item number 11, which is commissioner communications. I will go around the board and just do a reality check to see if anyone has anything to say. So Commissioner Barr, any communications on your part?
I just wanted to report that all the activity from DPW and the contractors or subcontractors in Ward 1 and 8 are going extremely well. The traffic patterns, the staff that are out there looking very professional. I'd like to think that there's less cars on the road that could cause the challenges, but I just think that things are going great. So just wanted to make sure that they knew that.
Thank you, Commissioner Barr. Commissioner Hogan.
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Commissioner Gilman.
Nothing for me.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Bose.
I wanted to comment on the work being done on, what is it, Locust? It's been going, it's in my neighborhood, so I've had a chance to go by it. Looks really good, and good interaction with people. As you know, I know it's been contentious at different points, but I think it's going really well. So just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Bose. Commissioner O'Neill.
Director Spencer, thank you so much for really holding the ship together. I know that your team has been really on the front line, so thank you. And I got to say, I love those signs now that say paving coming and sidewalk work done. I mean, it's not on my sidewalk that needs it, but on my walking path. So I think it helps the public who maybe isn't always looking on the construction portal or whatever, but just this like right in front of your face sign that like, oh, it's coming. Hopefully that decreases the complaint factor in some sectors. So great job on that.
Thanks,
and then
Rob Goulding, who has made that happen. Thank
you.
Rob,
great job. I really like that communication piece. Like I said, it's great. And then I do have a question, and this goes back to the kind of the ledge stuff on Riverside Ave. And I go to pick up my farm share tomorrow, so I would verify then. But maybe a couple weeks ago, I saw that there's a new Indian restaurant, GBG Indian Kitchen, I think it's called, at 471 Riverside Ave. I think that's the address. It's in the old Dunkin' Donuts building. And I thought that there were problems with that, but I don't remember exactly if there were problems with that parking lot, at least, the integrity of it. And then I have to ask, if I was remembering correctly, like, why are we still allowing businesses to rent in area that we know is probably not super stable, is that we don't have a policy yet on that. I know that we were working earlier with the city engineer on kind of what the purview is, but just throwing that out there.
Great. Commissioner O'Neill Vivanco. Yes, City Engineer Baldwin at the last meeting or the meeting before talked about that we are working with the city attorney through authorities. This is private property. The city has very circumscribed authorities about what we can do to control activities on private parcels. This is an area where there's increased interest from you and many others about not contributing to slope instability. At this point, we're still working with the attorneys on authorities to either stop work or stop activity on particular parcels where we have geotechnical concerns.
Okay, thanks. I know, yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner O'Neill. Popular hiking spot these days too behind there. Commissioner Overby.
I had a couple questions. We had talked last month that, about the 15-minute, pick up and drop off meals, and we said that we weren't talking about the parklets. And I just have a question about the parklets. That what's going on with the parklets? I know I walk by the Ken's Pizza, and there's a whole section of the roadway that's got outside dining. Can you explain what we didn't do anything more with the parklets? We did last year's pilots. Can you explain to me what's going on with the parklets? And we didn't discuss it. And is there an extension or expansion or something that we just don't know about at this point?
Very good question. Commissioner Overby, I'm just looking through my director's report. I don't think I touched on it in the director's report. It doesn't look like I did. So yes, good question. Thank you very much. As part of the COVID response, with the last time we talked to the commission, we got your review of the parklet pilot program, and we got your support. I don't recall how the vote sugared off, but there was a vote of support to formalize the parklet program for this year and on into the future. With COVID, there was a strong interest in moving quickly to offer a slightly modified parklet program to serve the needs of the distressed businesses in the city. As a result, the mayor used the authority under the state of emergency to offer a making space for restaurant and retail recovery. Normally, these encumbrances require city council license committee action and then full adoption by the city council for those encumbrances, and a fee is required. Because of the state of emergency and the distress of our local businesses, the mayor, with the authorities vested with that office during the state of emergency, supported the launch of what was called Making Space for Restaurant and Retail Recovery, which did a couple of things. One, it delegated the authority for review and approval of the parklets, or we call expanded sidewalks as part of this program, to the review and approval of DPW, and fees for the encumbrance were waived during the state of emergency. Then at the last city council meeting, well, let me just say, the last ordinance committee meeting of the city council, they reviewed ordinance that would allow this Making Space program to continue once the state of emergency ended, if the state of emergency ends before the end of the warm season this year. The ordinance committee recommended the council approve that ordinance language, and the city council, I believe, as part of the consent agenda on Monday night at 11 p.m. did approve that ordinance language. So now we have, while the mayor has delegated authority to DPW to set up these to license these expanded sidewalk installations. Should the state of emergency end before October 31st, the City Council has allowed ordinance language for these to continue through the rest of the season. We have so far administratively approved 8 or 9 expanded sidewalks and 5 temporary grab and go short-term parking opportunities.
So there's no more input from the Public Works Commission on parklets because it's the during the emergency. Is that what I'm saying? You're hearing? I'm hearing.
Yes, and I believe I gave a brief update on this last month. A little hazy right now. We can double check, but yes, because of the urgent nature of supporting the reopening of our businesses during this time, the mayor did take the initiative to use the state of emergency to allow DPW to approve quickly and without fee.
Yeah, I know. I did ask last time because originally the agenda item was parklets and the 15-minute pick up and drop off.
Right.
And you said no, it was taken off of our agenda. So I was expecting it to sort of show up this month when I started seeing them happening, and I didn't understand that basically that authority has been removed from the Public Works Commission at this point.
The reason the Public Works Commission was engaged last year was because you had to address the meters to allow the parklets to be in metered parking. We are now, because of the mayor's authorities and because of what the council is doing, the commission no longer needs to approve the kind of override of the meters in those locations.
Okay, that answers that question. A second question is, can you just explain what the digging is that was going on at the corner of Elmwood and Spring? You might not know, but they had trenched across Elmwood right at Spring, and I was just curious what that's all about.
I do not know definitively, but I believe it is connected to some of the soil remediation work that is part of the dry cleaning remediation of the contaminated soils at that end of Elmwood Avenue that DEC, the Department of Environmental Conservation, is spearheading, and the city is a helpful partner in that effort.
Yeah, they had quite a significant ditch dug all the way across Elmwood there. So
yeah,
hard to know.
I can confirm for you, Commissioner Overby, but I'm fairly confident that that's the reason.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that would explain that. And I did get another follow-up call from Jared Wood about the striping. I know I asked the question last month about whether we could be using a white striping mechanism to mark crosswalks, which is more visible. And I know, I don't know if it was Engineer Baldwin or you that were going to get back to me about that or have a follow-up on that. Is that something that could be done in Burlington instead of the red brick that's a little bit harder to see in the dark?
It is certainly something that I think what we said last month is that Norm's team in technical service is looking at updating our engineering standards. And as part of our engineering standards, we can set clear guidelines for how crosswalks should be marked. We have used 3 types of crosswalks: the continental white stripes, we've used the red brick crosswalk, and we've used the granite and brick pavers in particular high traffic downtown or university locations. We've heard concerns that the red crosswalks either aren't visible enough or the surface is slippery. We have taken those under advisement and are actively working on the engineering standards and can consider them at that time. Because we're so short-staffed with labor due to the financial challenges right now and our inability to hire seasonals, we are behind on crosswalk marking and other markings within the city right now. We're trying to catch up the best we can, and we did get approval to hire seasonals as of July 1, but we may not get the amount of painting done that we usually do because of that labor shortage.
But there's nothing that would prevent the city from using the white striping in places where it would be beneficial?
Yeah, it's a compliant marking. We have historically just repainted the red crosswalks where red crosswalks have existed so that we don't have to remove all the paint and reapply a different treatment that would be more time consuming and costly. But at the point where we set up a clear standard that we don't want the red brick crosswalk anymore, and we have funds available, we could either grind out or sandblast those crosswalks and reapply the continental markings.
And is there anything that a community or a neighborhood could do to encourage that to happen more quickly at their crosswalks? Obviously, you have staffing people, but I'm just trying to find a way to give encouragement to the people that, particularly former Commissioner Wood, who does have concerns about this for his own concerns. And so I would like to just keep following up on how to encourage it to happen and what would be the best way to help encourage that and get you guys support for making that happen.
Right. I think I would just say that this is something that I support of evaluating. I do not see this as an urgent matter at this time, given all the other urgent matters that we are grappling with right now during the state of emergency and trying to accommodate capital project work with all the extra kind of burdens. We are right now short-staffed on the engineering side because we don't have seasonals and interns, that our engineers are having to work weekends and in the field doing construction management to try to make our ends meet. It is not an easy time right now, and the red brick crosswalks are compliant. I do agree that it's probably in the long term needing to be replaced, but it is not high on my priority list at this time, unfortunately.
Okay. Thanks. That's all I had.
Thank you, Commissioner Overby. I have nothing, so that would close out Commissioner Communications. Before we zip into the final item, which is one of the more exciting items, real quick, actually I have a question for Commissioner Gilman. Commissioner Gilman, would you be able to text me your number that is accessible? Because the one I get off the website, it sounds like is no longer applicable. You can get my cell phone on the website of commissioners rather than us just displaying it. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Good.
Summer, looking ahead, we have our next meeting set for July 15th, third Wednesday of the month, kind of our traditional point. Usually take August off as we look forward. Normally summers are a big vacation time. Maybe that's different this year with COVID. So if you think you'll be away, it's, the earlier heads up, just so we know that we have a quorum is all the better, please. Elsewise, I think that's all I wanted to say. Someone I'm sure would like to move an item 12 here, which is adjournment.
So moved.
Commissioner Barr, thank you very much.
Sorry.
Do we have a second?
Second.
He is fast. I'm going to say caffeine. Commissioner Bose seconds that one. Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate your time.
Good night, all.
Thanks. Good night.
Take care, everybody.
Good night, all.